Hi, Gordon.
Hello, everybody. Did you pick a day for your committee meeting, Aaron?
I'm still trying to confirm, but I think it will be on December 12th.
Okay.
Hey guys.
I'll let you know as soon as I do. Hi, Tiffany.
Oh. I just want to test my audio. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks.
Hey, Gordon.
Okay, I'm starting my ANC meeting, okay?
Did you say something, Aaron? I'm here.
I just forwarded you an email that has the names of the people who are presenting from Walter Reed for that
Okay, thank you.
and resolution, just so you know who to switch over at the time.
I did something wrong here. I'll let these go together.
Good evening, everyone. It is now 7:00 p.m. and we are ready to start our meeting. Okay, call to order and roll call. Aaron, please.
Sure. 4B01,
Present.
4B02, present. 4B03, 4B04,
Present.
4B05. Barry, you're here, right?
Yeah, Perry's here.
4B06,
Present.
4B07,
If that's Jeff, he's just coming over now.
okay. 4B08,
Present.
Alice.
4B09.
Present.
So we're just missing Commissioner Knickerbocker at the moment.
We have a quorum.
Scott's here.
He
Scott
just
says
said he's here.
Okay, so we have everybody.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Aaron, for that. Okay, administrative items, consider approval for our November agenda. It says that I move to amend the agenda to add presentation, HGA architects and engineers and resolution to 4B-20-1007. Supporting requests to special exceptional to lot occupant and parking requirement to allow construction of new Lamar Ridge DC Public Library. And this will be located at 5401 South Dakota Avenue, Southeast, and BZA is 20392 as agenda number item 10. With community concern, we're gonna move it to agenda item 11, and adjournment, we're gonna move to agenda item number 12. Okay. Do we move to approve this agenda? First of all, is there anything else on the agenda that needs to be moved or needed to be added?
No,
Nope.
this is Allison. I move to approve the agenda with the amendment.
A second.
Thank you. All right, the agenda has been moved and it has been second. And all of those that's in favor of the agenda, aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. Any noes? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. All right, I think everybody that's on the call, as we've been on the call now for about 9 months. And we instructions for regarding participation in virtual meetings. Mr. Gordon Sheplin is he's the hosting our meeting for us. And we do have on our chat, and you can raise your hand when you have a question. Because I'm not going to go through all of this because we've been virtually meeting for so long. And next, we're going to move to the approval of our October regular public meeting. All of the commissioner, have you had time to read over our public minutes meeting from last month?
Brenda, can I flag one thing on the instructions? For people who are listening and can't see the print in front of them, you have to press *9 on your telephone to raise your hand. That's the one thing I think is worth repeating. If you're on the phone, *9 raises your hand.
Thank you. So everybody had a chance to read our October meeting minutes? Okay. Can someone make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all right, it's been second. And all of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have any noes? And that's abstentions? All right, it's been approved for our October minute meetings. Okay, next is our treasurer report and update regarding grants.
Brenda, I think we have the annual report first.
Okay. Okay, annual report?
Do you want me to say a few words about that first?
Yes, please.
Sure. We have drafted an annual report for 2020. This is similar in style and somewhat in content to the annual report we did last year for 2019. It summarizes the number of meetings we had, how we noticed meetings, commissioner activities within their single member districts, as well as common issues at the commission level and how we acted in response to them, followed by some discussion of our administrative items and setup and our finances. So it's quite thorough. If people feel like taking a look, it gets sent to the DC Council and the mayor and the Office of ANCs and helps create a record and transparency about what we've been working on over the course of the year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I see why I missed it, Erin. Thank you so much.
Sure, sure.
All right, we all heard what Erin has just said about the annual report. Can we get a movement on this, please? Can we get an approval? A motion?
I'll move to approve the annual report.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, it's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays? All right, thank you, thank you. Now we go to the treasurer report.
Okay, yeah, that's me. Thank you. Okay, so the balance for our commission's checking account as of our October statement is $36,000, $36,275.87. So we had two disbursements that landed in our account that we were owed in October. So that's why it's bigger in our last statement than it was on our previous commission meeting. And as the agenda noted, I just wanted to remark for the public's benefit that we are trying to restart giving grants. There are a lot of requirements on how those are done, and we want to make sure that we do it right. We were hoping to have that all in place earlier this year. And so we're not quite there yet, but we want everyone to know that we're actively working on that. So I think that's all I was going to say about that. I don't know if any of the other commissioners want to elaborate or if that wasn't clear enough of an update.
Anyone?
This is Erin. I'll just add that part of the delay is that we're waiting for some assistance from the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions to use materials that have been drafted and approved by them, which is the preference from their end. So we're moving a little more slowly, as Jeff noted, than we would have otherwise, but we'll hopefully be offering grants soon.
Okay, we hopefully by January 1st of the year, we have talked about it. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, commissioner update. We have Commissioner Palmer is going to talk about the mail-in ballots for persons in November for the general election.
Brenda, that's just a placeholder from last month. I don't have any this month.
Okay, all right, thank you. Moving right along here. I guess everybody is tired. I know I am. And we're coming to the reports. Metropolitan Police, are you there?
Yeah, Captain Porter is there. Hold on one second.
Thank you.
He should be coming up in one.
Okay, you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. I'm not gonna be on video today. I'm off right now. I don't have my uniform with me, so I'm just gonna go on audio. I'm Captain Franklin Porter of the 4th District. I'm gonna be Sector 1 Captain. Basically, I'm gonna go over the monthly stats of what happened in the last 30 days. Basically, what we had for violent crimes are up. A lot of robberies are going up. Well, robberies are down, but assault with dangerous weapons are up. We're gonna talk about those. We had 5 assault with a dangerous weapon. They can be knives or guns or even small as a bat. The 5 basically range from there's a few shootings that occurred. I think 2 of them are with knives. One of them is with an arrest, and one is with a bat. The bat occurred during a protest that occurred in front of the 4th District. And that was a closed case also. So those are 5 assault with dangerous weapons. Last year at this time we had zero. So those cases are up. Robberies are down. Last year at this time we had 6 in the ANC area. This time we only had 2. But obviously 2 is way too many. But those are down. When it comes to property crimes are looking very good. Property crimes are looking good throughout the entire district. But in the ANC area, they are down. The burglaries, we had no burglaries in the last 30 days. We did have 27 theft models. That is down dramatically by last year. Last year at this time, we had 42 in the ANC area. So that is down. Thefts are down. Thefts, we had 18. Last year at this time, we had 31. So thefts are down. Now, the only thing that are up in the when it comes to property crimes are stolen vehicles. Stolen vehicles are on the rise in the entire city. Probably 70 to 75% of stolen vehicles that get stolen are stolen by way of people leaving their vehicles running. Most of the time it's with people that's delivering food. They'll leave the vehicles running while they take the food inside, and when they come back out, they see their vehicle driving down the street. What we've been doing is trying to get the word out to a lot of the door dashes and the hubs and the different places that deliver food to let them know they got to turn their vehicle off and take the keys with them. We also been driving around giving out tickets to anyone we see with their vehicles left running. That is a violation. You can get a $50 fine if you leave your vehicle running unattended. So those cases are up. So that's what we got to be mindful of when it comes to property crimes is stolen vehicles. Like I said, the violent crimes, the only thing in violent crimes are up is assault with dangerous weapons. I had a meeting not too long ago with the chief that talked about gun violence throughout the entire city. Gun violence in the city is up dramatically. I'm not sure what that is for, but we got to be mindful of that when it comes to gun violence. It's basically on a rise. Homicides are up. Definitely up in the 4th District. It is up in the entire city. Hopefully we don't reach that 200 mark this year in the entire city, but we're on verge of reaching 200 homicides by the end of the year in the entire city. So hopefully we don't reach that because it's been a while since the district seen 200 homicides in a year. Other than that, that's it for MPD. Take questions.
So, Commissioner Perry Red, Captain Porter, did I not hear you report a homicide in the last 30 days in our ANC?
No, there has not been a homicide in ANC 4B.
So the 2 shootings on Georgia Avenue, just below Kennedy Street, neither was a homicide?
They
No,
weren't in 4B though, right?
That's 4D. Yeah, that's ANC 4D.
That's D?
There was a homicide in 4D. Yeah, ANC 4D. Once you drop below there, that's ANC 4D.
Thank you.
Yes.
Captain Porter, this is Commissioner Brooks. I have a question. I'm sure that some of the folks on the meeting tonight are aware that there was a call earlier today between MPD ones and the community. Do you have any updates with regard to that, or would you like to share any bit of that conversation at this time?
I do not have any update to that. Unfortunately, the ones organization, they try their best to keep their distance away from MPD. Unfortunately, they because obviously if the community that they're trying to reach interacting with the police, then they do not want to reach out to them. So unfortunately, they did not call me for that meeting. so I wasn't in on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I can share a little bit about what we learned on the call, which was that, you guys are working on the issues that have been going on Kennedy Street, some of which are in my SMD, the 100 and 200 unit block of Kennedy Street, and, obviously further on. They agreed to have future conversations with the community on a smaller level that are more specific to, block by block or community by community issues, as opposed to all of Ward 4. So I guess I can keep you updated.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Most of the time, what we do is we try our best to work with the ones. They will reach out to us. I usually try to get with the director. That's the only person that I can reach out to. But I mean, I understand where they're coming from. I definitely do. They are definitely trying to reach out to the a lot of the community that do not want to participate with the police. So obviously, I can see where they're coming from. But when it comes to Kennedy Street, obviously that's ANC 4D. But I have a unit that's positioned at Georgia and Kennedy. That's a fixed post. That unit is not going nowhere. We have another one sitting at 7th and Kennedy that's not going nowhere, and another one sitting at 5th and Kennedy. So those units are basically going to position there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're going to have a unit at that location because of the gun violence that's going up and down Kennedy Street.
Evan?
Captain Porter, I was just driving past between Kennedy, the 200, 100, and unit block, and I saw some patrol cars there. Are those also part of the core team that's going to remain there, or was that just kind of just there on that particular day? And this was Sunday.
No, that's probably just some units that you might have saw out in that area. Obviously, that's a different sector than what I'm managing. That's Captain Christensen's sector, obviously. But they do have he does have patrols around that area. But when it comes to Kennedy Street, when it comes to my area, the Kennedy Street stops at 4th Street. But I specifically placed 3 units in specific three different areas on Kennedy Street, and that's like 5th, 7th, and Georgia Avenue.
And they were there today. I saw them as well.
Yeah, they ain't going nowhere. Trust me, they're not going nowhere.
So did I. I was there for about an hour and a half. Hey,
Evan?
one more thing, please, Captain. I want to thank you for Friday the 20th. And this was after the funeral, for having your officers stand back, for lack of better words. I don't like to use that term, stand back and stand by, but for having your officers allow the community to grieve in the way that it did. And I can't express to you how much I appreciate you after our conversation.
Yes.
It really it mitigated any conflict, and that was my purpose in reaching out to you. So thank you.
Not a problem.
For listening.
Evan?
So I have 2 questions, Brenda, and then I'm going to read the community questions, if that's all right, after that.
I'm not, because after you, I wanted to ask, I have a question.
Okay, just come back to me and I'll read the community questions after that.
Yes.
So the 2 questions I had are, Captain Porter, at our last meeting, you promised me an update on the Piney Branch and Dahlia traffic death, Timothy Abbott, and I was wondering if you had that. And then I also wanted to ask about the MPD's response to the DC Nurses Association protest on Orchid Street, where they were told they would be arrested if they didn't disperse.
Okay, what was the second one? The protest. I wasn't aware about a protest.
So on Saturday, I believe it was the 14th, the DC Nurses Association protested on Orchid Street. It was a very quiet protest. I was there in person. No one, there were no chanting or anything, but Lieutenant Jessup told the school nurses that they would be arrested if they didn't disperse from the location for disturbing the neighborhood tranquility. And I'm just curious how that decision gets made, who does it, and what decides that the neighborhood tranquility is being disturbed.
Right. That was in the reference to protest in reference to going back to school protest.
Yeah, it was school nurses.
Right. Yes, yes. What usually happens with that is usually we notify Special Operation Division, the watch commander from the Special Operation Division, and then they usually make the decision if the streets being blocked or things like that. If it's a protest that can go on, if it's any interference, then they might work with the organizer to let the protest go on. We try our best to let the protest go on. So I'm not really sure exactly if Lieutenant Jessup had a reason at that particular time, but usually we try our best to let the protest go on. I mean, we really don't want to stop a protest, but obviously, if it's impeding public safety, then we have to take action.
So
it's usually if it's impeding public safety. That's usually.
I would appreciate a follow up on why MPD believed that this small group of mostly 50s and 60s-year-old women who serve as school nurses were a threat to public safety on that day. Like, I think that's a question definitely worth answering, because I like my kids' school nurses.
I do too. I agree. So what I do is I reach out to Lieutenant Jessup and try to get some idea of what was going on at that particular time.
And then other question, Piney Branch and Dahlia.
Yeah, in reference to, it was a reference to traffic study or traffic, just getting traffic at their location.
There was a traffic fatality there, and I'd asked at the last meeting about whether or not there was charges filed against the driver, because according to MPD's report, the gentleman was in the crosswalk when he was hit and killed, and you weren't able to respond.
Yeah, I sent an email. I remember that. I was sending an email to our traffic special operation division. Also, the people that does the protests also do the traffic, is the in charge of the traffic. I shoot another email to the lieutenant down there and see if he can respond, because I shot an email after our meeting last month and he didn't respond to me about what was going on with that particular case. What I do is I shoot an email as soon as I get done here, and then I'll send you an email directly.
Thank you so much. Brenda?
Okay, thank you. The question that I have is the house that's located at 6700 block of 8th and Sheraton, where the shooting took place about a month ago. And I know that DCRA boarded the house up, but they boarded it up on a Friday evening. That Sunday, all the boards was taken off the house. What is the police doing about that shooting? And why was the boards taken off the doors and the windows?
Well, I'm pretty sure the police did not take the boards off. It's probably was somebody that probably had no business taking the boards off.
Mm-hmm.
It happens all the time when we board up. We get DCRA to board up certain locations as abandoned, and usually people take the boards off, immediately take the boards off, and then and we go in. If we don't find them inside of it, if we do find them inside there, then we can lock them up for unlawful entry. If we don't find them, then we notify DCRA and they put boards back up. So we keep going through this. About the homicide, I've been in contact with Detective Harad, who is the captain for homicide branch that's doing the investigation. Right now, the case is still open. They're following a few leads. One thing he did confirm that the case, it has nothing to do with any gang violence, any crew violence. So that's the only thing he was able to confirm right now. But they don't believe there's any crew or any gang violence involved in that, but they are still investigating that, and it's still an open case.
Okay, thank you. So I need to go back to DCRA and have them to board it up again. Is there anything, can you padlock the doors?
That I don't know. What they do is they come out, they look at the locations, and they usually find the best way to secure it. DCRA does that. If you ever see a location like that, and you want to make sure you make a quick notification, you can always do the 311, take a picture of it and send it to 311, the DCRA. But trust me, there's a lot of times we do this over and over when it comes to these abandoned locations. We have to keep calling DCRA and keep getting it reported. Even if we put a padlock on it, I'm pretty sure there's things that can cut that lock off. So I mean, it's never 100%. It's never 100% secure. But once it's boarded up, and we know it's been boarded up, and we find somebody in there, then they can get locked up for unlawful entry right off the back. So if you ever see somebody going inside that location, let the constituents know. We can lock them up for unlawful entry. We just have to keep getting it boarded back up.
Okay, I thank you for that. Because I'm really concerned because that's the third killing within what, 18 months at that house.
Right.
And but thank you so much. Okay, now Evans, questions?
Sure. Questions from the chat
Chat
first.
line, yes.
Any update on recent shootings and a stabbing in Riggs Park from David Casa?
Yep, we had that. We had one shooting over by the Walmart. What was that? Hold on, I'm gonna have to look that up here. But that case right now is still open. The one that's in the, I think it was in the 300 block of Riggs.
So what he's talking about, this is Commissioner Huff 4B09. And so Friday the 13th, there was a shooting in the 800 block of Oglethorpe Street. And then that Monday, there was another shooting. On the shooting Friday the 13th, someone did get shot. On the shooting on that Monday, no one got shot. But there was questionable as to whether it was a robbery or was it related. And then there was a shooting on Tuesday, and that shooting was in the 800 block of Jefferson Street. And so I know that they're still under investigation from tonight's conversation with the commander. He feels like that's closing in. We will, after the meeting tonight, have a meeting for this area to talk specifically about crime and in the area on that block. I see where someone asked about a permanent camera. There are some other suggestions of working with Prince George's, since Eastern Avenue, it abates that area. There will be conversations about community engagement. And then on Friday, there was a man who had fallen outside of the rec center. And so it appeared that he came from Nicholson Street, because when they looked at the tapes and the gentleman asked for directions and what the address was, but he fell there. So it's questionable whether it happened in the immediate area. However, he did fall here on Riggs Road. So all of these, as far as I've been told, it's still under investigation. And after tonight's meeting, I was advised to hear what the commander would say in an open forum for Ward 4, to then have a smaller meeting with the surrounding areas of 4B09. Because of the reoccurrence, because of the fear residents have, they have had more police in the area. So I heard the commander say tonight, because people question why are officers in the cars and not engaging and walking around. So he did say that they should be. And so I will have a conversation with Captain Christian. One of the residents said they have not seen the police presence on Oglethorpe at 8th Street. So we just get a sense of what's really going on. Obviously there can't be, I guess they're circling, but we can find out what that looks like.
So to follow up on that, since there's a question right after that in the chat, Alex B asked twice about the single house in the 800 block of Oglethorpe that he believes is causing recurring violence. Any comment on that, Captain Porter?
Yeah, we are aware of that house. Obviously, once any violence comes from a certain house, our major narcotics branch all gets involved, and basically we start looking at that particular house. We also get the OEG's office involved and see if we can do anything when it comes to nuisance properties. So basically, the detectives in the OEG's office and our major narcotics branch is all looking at that house, definitely.
Wendy Harmon wants to know, shots fired today at 7th and Sheridan. Do you have an update on that?
I do not. I've been off all day. I haven't really got too much in the emails. But what I do is I can follow up and I'll send any information to all the ANC commissioners.
The next question is from Nick Casey. Why is the patrol car at 7th and Kennedy always parked on the sidewalk, even if parking is available?
Probably to be more be more visible. They probably sit in a spot that they can see the most from an area. Obviously, I do not want them blocking any sidewalk when it comes to pedestrians, but I just want to be able to make sure they're completely visible and able to see the entire block. So, I mean, I'll take a look at exactly where they do park on a daily basis, but I just want to make, like I said, I just want to make sure the vehicle itself is visible, that everyone can see that there is a vehicle there. Obviously, officers should not be sitting in a car. They should be out engaging the community.
Captain Porter, I frequent that area often, and they're always right by where Yum's carryout is and Tony's. There's that kind of extra elongated sidewalk, and they pull their vehicles up there and sit. Sometimes, the majority of the time, they're in the vehicles. Sometimes one or both officers are outside the vehicle, just kind of, kneeling against it, not really like engaging with the community members, just there. So if perhaps you could take that information back to your officers, that perhaps instead of just kind of being this like force that just sits there and like looks at people, maybe they could engage and have a conversation with the individuals, get to know the individuals that are out there. It's a little disconcerting when you just drive past every day and you see this cop car on the sidewalk that's like ready to pounce at the least little thing.
Did we lose Tiffany?
Oh, I can hear her.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We definitely don't want them to look like they're just to get ready for anything to happen so they can jump on it. No, we want them to engage. Like I said, I'll make sure I speak to my officers more and basically push them more onto engaging the community in a friendly conversation with the community. That's what we want. We want everyone to look like we definitely want to do more community policing and not just like looking like we ready to pounce on somebody that's going to do something wrong. That's not what we're there for.
So we have two more written questions, and then I think, Gordon, we have two more callers. Nick Casey has a suggestion that the city install a street bench for the officers to sit on there. Colette Coleman would like to know, is the recent crime spike due to the challenges caused by COVID?
No, most of the crime spikes that goes up are mostly social media. A lot of the crew members, they get into with other crew members in other neighborhoods by way of social media. Either they're doing rap videos that's disrespecting other crew members, and they go back and forth. And when these beefs start getting upset, comes the gun violence. So most of the gun violence that we see they're not fighting over drug turf or things like that they may have been fighting back in the days, back in the 90s and 80s. It's a little different now. Mostly they're fighting because they're upset at something that somebody said on social media or something like that. So that's what we're trying to monitor and trying to decide. But it's got nothing to do with COVID.
But final written question before we go to the live callers. Mabelia Colson requesting a patrol car on Underwood Place Northwest between First and North Capitol. Driver regularly speeds down the street and then makes a donut at 3 a.m.
Hold on, give me that location again.
Underwood Place Northwest between First and North Capitol.
All right, what I'll do is I'll send the information out to my traffic car and to try to be in around that area around that time and see exactly if we can catch him doing that, because that's definitely reckless driving.
Gordon, to the callers?
We put in other requests on both sides of North Capitol there for speeding issues at night. So yeah, more enforcement would be great.
Copy that, no problem.
Jocelyn, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. Wow. Can you hear me?
No.
Jocelyn, are you still there? Okay.
Jocelyn, if you write them in the chat or in the Q&A, I'd be happy to read them for you if you have issues with that.
Yeah, Jocelyn,
Jocelyn, you either need to mute your computer or get off of your phone because there's feedback between the two.
yeah. Okay, we'll hear from area code 202 caller that ends 610. You can unmute yourself by dialing *6. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. I just want to know, is it a possibility that you all could consider perhaps occupying a building on Kennedy Street as like a police satellite station, so you could have be a fixture on Kennedy rather than just sit in a car? There are properties on Kennedy up and down where you can take one of those buildings or houses or whatever and turn it into a police station. And I'm trying to figure out why that has never been something someone ever looked into. So
I think that's a great idea. I have also recommended that up to chain of command, that we could have some type of police station down there. Because obviously, since I've been at the 4th district, I think I've been here for 2 years, and have always had a special beat or some type of police presence right there on Kennedy Street. So I'm gonna push that again some more, because when I first got there, about a year after I was here, I started pushing that, seeing if we get some type of satellite location down there on Kennedy Street in one of those buildings that's down there. So I'm gonna push that up again. That's a really great idea.
Hey, Devin Walker, you should be able to unmute yourself now. Okay, Devin Walker says his question is in the chat. Did you see a question from him,
His
Devin?
question was about monitoring social media sites for people so that the police could stay on top of what was going on. And I responded by saying that police currently do that already, but I'm sure Captain Porter can speak to that in more detail.
Oh yeah, we definitely have intel. Just like any other agency or any other government agency, we have counterintelligence that's going to do exactly that. So we definitely have intel that does that.
Okay, and we'll try Jocelyn one more time.
No, that was Jocelyn. That was on the phone with the idea about satellite office.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah, I asked about being in the building on Kennedy Street. Okay.
Okay, we're all set.
Brenda, I think we're on the next item.
Okay. Brenda, are you there?
I think she's on mute.
She's on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Captain Porter. Very helpful information. We're going to move on. We're going to move on to Councilmember Brandon Tarr's office, Dottie Turner. Dolly, are you there?
She is not there today.
Okay. All right. We're going to move right on to the mayor office, Keyshawn Harris.
He's coming up in 1 second.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Keyshawn Harris, one of the Ward 4 representatives for Mayor Bowser. Serve as the eyes and ears for the mayor. And so if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can definitely always reach out to me at 202-436-2087 or Keyshawn.harris@dc.gov. I have a few just updates for you all regarding phase 2. Today, Mayor Bowser announced that non-essential and non-retail businesses are strongly encouraged to continue teleworking. The limit for outdoor gatherings has been reduced from 50 to 25 people. Indoor gatherings may not exceed 10 people. However, restaurants and houses of worship have different rules and guidance issued by DC Health. Restaurants may stay open until midnight, but alcohol sales, service, and consumption, excluding carry out and delivery, must end at 10 p.m. Beginning on Monday, December 14th, the maximum indoor capacity for restaurants will be reduced from 50% to 25%. Gyms, private trainers, and other businesses, recreation centers must suspend all indoor group exercises, and outdoor group classes can continue, but they can be no more than 25 people. Additionally, our live entertainment pilot has been temporarily suspended. And residents can find out more information about updates to the mayor's order on coronavirus.dc.gov. I've mentioned at a few of the meetings that we've launched a DC CAN, which is our COVID alert notification system, to help residents with notifications if they've come in contact with someone who has tested positive. So please make sure that you download that on your phone if you have an Android, or opt into those notifications if you have an iPhone. Last week, Mayor Bowser announced our brand new $100 million bridge fund, which is a $100 million investment in our businesses and workers that are grappling with the COVID-19 public health emergency in our hospitality, entertainment, and retail sectors. We will begin disbursement with the Hotel Bridge Fund of about $30 million. Then we will move to the Restaurant Bridge Fund and Retail Bridge Fund, which have $35 million, $30 million, and then the Retail Bridge has $15 million. And residents who are interested in this program can find out more information at dmped.dc.gov. I know when we first kicked off leaf season, there was an announcement that residents will be required to bag their leaves. DPW has resumed their vacuum leaf program and should have sent out a postcard to all residents letting you know when your scheduled leaf collection is. However, if you have bagged your leaves, I would inform you to submit a DC 311 request for yard waste collection, and DPW will come and pick up at least 7 of those yard waste bags. In local news, I want to thank Commissioner Tiffany Johnson and others who helped bring the new Capitol Bike Share project to Kansas Avenue. I want to thank Commissioner Allison Brooks and Mr. Charles Brown for the new South Manor neighborhood welcome sign that we've been pushing for quite a while. And then Commissioner Parks, we can talk offline about the 6700 8th Street so I can see what's the update for DC already, make sure they stay on top of that. And
Thank you.
just happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I'll be participating in Thanksgiving with my family via Zoom. I hope you all continue to wear masks, keep your distance, and do your part to help us flatten the curve as we go into the winter months. And that is all that I have for you. Thank you so much.
Questions, commissioners? Perry?
Thank you. Commissioner Red here. Mocha Harris, I want to ask you to convey to the mayor a thank you for accommodating the Hilton Brown family in their repast activity after I got a rejection from the DPR director. So thank the office for stepping in and acting on behalf of the constituent. And then thank the mayor as well, if you would. You have a pen, Mocha Harris?
I sure will. We'll let her know about
I want you to make a note of this, Mocha Harris. That the mayor sending the go-go truck with the young folks that gathered on Friday, the 20th. Also, I will do that, but I wanted to do so through you. At this meeting, let the commissioners know that the mayor's office was responsive to our request. So please do that for me, Mocha Harris.
For sure. Thank you, Commissioner.
And thank you for your service this 2020.
Let her know.
Any other commissioners? Do we have any questions, Evan?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Mabelia Colson, Mr. Harris, please explain why Mayor Bowser allotted only $10 million to Black or minority-owned businesses.
I'm not familiar where that comes from, but we have, matter of fact, today we launched 2 new platforms for residents to patronize our local and small businesses, which includes shopinthedistrict.com and DC to Go. So Shop in the District is a site for all DC small and local businesses have the opportunity to promote themselves as well as sell their items online. This is housed through the the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. So it lists the small businesses by neighborhood. So for Tacoma, we have the Spice Suite and other areas. And so we're encouraging small businesses to reach out to us or to go to shopinthedistrict.com and submit your company's information so we can definitely feature you all on their website. And then dc2gogo.com is something similar, but it's for our food establishments. But yeah, back to your question, Commissioner, I'm not aware of where that $10 million comes from, but I'm more than happy to speak with the resident offline.
Okay. Question from Karen Gall. How will the mayor's office enforce the 10 people limits inside of homes?
So when it comes to enforcement, we lean towards our Department of Health to help make sure that we are remaining in compliance. And when it comes to individual homes, we're really putting the onus on residents. We know the dangers of the pandemic. We know how the spread has been in our community. So we're asking everyone to do their part to make sure that you are limiting residents who are not a part of your immediate family from coming into your homes this holidays. And then if you see establishments or other public spaces where there are issues, please reach out to DC Health and we'll make sure that someone from DCRA or a health investigator will come out.
The clarification on the previous question, it says in the bridge fund, it was $10 million designated for Black owned or operated companies.
I'm not familiar with that one, but I'll follow up for sure just to see if we had something designated for specific minority-owned businesses, and I'll follow up.
If the person wants to drop that in their information to me in the chat or to the panelists, we'll make sure Kashan gets it so that he can follow up with you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner.
Gordon, do you want to go to the phones?
Yep. Adele Dancer, hold on 1 second.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hi. I just want to thank Keyshawn for helping out with DCRA and Inez Saki Tay, who actually was very helpful with the illegal construction that was occurring at 609 Van Buren Street. And also they came back, they followed up, and when they realized that the people were violating the stop work order, they came back a couple days later. So I just want you to convey my the thanks to I guess it's Inez Saki Tay for her prompt response, from DCRA.
For sure. Thank you, Ms. Dancer, for that. Glad it all worked out.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Okay, next is State Board of Education, Fraser O'Leary.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I want to
Good
thank
evening.
everybody for voting for me so that I can harass you for the next 4 years.
You was the
we
only
have-
one.
We have four new members who were elected in November on the State Board of Education in wards 2, 7, 8, and the at-large are all going to be new members to the board. So we'll have a interesting first meeting in January where we'll get to meet each other, and hopefully all of us will be working for our children, as everyone does, but maybe we can get everybody working in the same direction. The CARE classrooms opened up in the middle of November, at 3 schools in Ward 4, LaSalle, Bacchus, Truesdale, and Brightwood. The care classrooms are very small classrooms for those students who are designated most needy, special ed students, for whom English is a second language, and other students who were chosen in a lottery. Those classrooms are virtual classrooms. They are taught by their teachers in the classroom, and they have people from the staff, not the school staff, who are monitoring them in their care classrooms. Mrs. O'Leary's Books for Friends is still in operation. We've had over 14,000 books distributed to the elementary schools over the last 6 or 7 months. Thank you so much for donating books. It's not too late. All you have to do is get in touch with me. I've put my information in the chat, my phone number and my email address. If you just call me, I'll come get the books. If you want to drop them off at 1318 Farragut, I'll just knock on the door and I'll be there. I don't go out much. And we delivered some books today at LaSalle Bacchus when they donated. They had some turkeys that were distributed to the community, and several people picked up some books. I'll be at Roosevelt tomorrow to do the same thing at a turkey giveaway. There's books. We still distribute books on Mondays, on Tuesdays and Fridays to the food sites. The food sites in the ward are Truesdale, LaSalle Bacchus, Coolidge, Powell, and Brightwood. On Wednesday, there's a fresh produce giveaway at Coolidge. There are dozens of families who come to collect those, and they do the same thing at Brightwood on Thursday. Brightwood and Coolidge on Wednesday for Coolidge, Thursday at Brightwood, a free produce bag.
Frazier, if you have this written out, could you just drop it in the chat, please? That would be helpful. So
Sure,
that everybody can see it.
I can do that. I'll do that. And the last thing is, we all know the COVID numbers are spiking. I have a gut feeling that schools won't be open much longer, especially with the new regulations that the mayor's putting in place. I don't think that's going to last. So we just have to deal with this virus, which is an equal opportunity employer. It doesn't take any names. It just gets whoever it wants to get. Please stay masked and wash your hands, and I hope you have a safe Thanksgiving. We're not even doing virtual Thanksgiving this year. I'll be here with my 2 children, who are my constant companions during this.
Thank you, Frazier. Commissioners, y'all have any questions for Frazier?
Commissioner Parks, if I can just say that thank you, Frazier, so much for everything that you're doing with the book drive and everything. I probably have some more books for you. I will reach out. But you said something that was really pertinent to me, which is where we stand with these care classrooms, and how long do we believe that is still a safe environment for any student to be in, let alone our kind of most vulnerable students. With the news that came out today, with the new orders that are going into effect, what is the State Board of Education, and perhaps you've been in talks with the Washington Teachers Union, what are your thoughts about, do we continue with this CARES model, or is it more prudent to just return to the distance learning in an individual's home setting?
The state board has come out very strongly against schools allowing students and teachers or any adults to come into the buildings until the buildings are safe. I went on 5 visits before they opened up the care classrooms, 5 different elementary schools in the ward. Of the 5 classrooms, the schools that I went to the week before the schools opened, or it was 2 weeks before the schools opened. They were supposed to open on the 9th, but if they had opened on the 9th, then of the 5 classrooms that I went to the week before that, only 1 of the schools had the correct number of water distribution and those HEPA filters that were promised for every classroom. By the end of that week, everybody had water. All the schools are supposed to have water dispensers they've been attached to the walls so that the students could bring their own water bottles and fill up the water. But most of the schools now have little bottles of water that are available. They had all the PPE, the masks, the rubber gloves, the hand sanitizer, all of that had been given to all of the schools that I visited. But now they all have the HEPA filters in the rooms. As you know, I'm very skeptical about what we're promised and what is the reality. And I don't think, with the new regulations that have just come out today, I don't think the shelf life of having the care classrooms is going to last.
And then, if I
Thank you
may,
for that.
if I may, Frazier,
Yes.
that's good. Please push it every turn that this is an ill-advised plan. Fairfax County reverted today back to total virtual learning and stepped away from that model, what we were calling the cohort model, stepped away from it. And with good cause. If you think about it, it's not necessarily the building that needs to be safe. The White House ain't safe. It's about the people. And that's what's relevant and important. So stay on that line of advocacy. We just
You don't have to worry about that, Perry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any more commissioners?
I'll be doing that. I'd like to just, if I might take 1 second just to tell you, I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia. In 1958, the governor of Virginia closed the schools in Norfolk rather than integrate the schools. So for my first semester of my 9th grade year, we had to go, nobody went, the white students, the schools were closed. All of the black students in Norfolk went to school. That's how stupid it was in Norfolk, all right? But none of us had an education for a semester, all right? And I'll be honest with you, the student safety is much more important than a semester of education is, all right? These are children, and the teachers want to go back in the classrooms, guarantee you that. So do the principals. It's the first time since I've been in education, 50 years, on January 4th, that the principals and the teachers are all on the same page. All right. It's usually been an antagonistic relationship, that's how it is between principals and teachers. The only people that are for people going back into the schools are the people downtown in DCPS and the mayor's office, because the mayor is in charge. And you know that I think that the State Board of Education, and I wish that we had something, because every other State Board of Education in the whole country, you hear about the decisions they make about the opening and closing of schools. We have nothing to say about that.
Okay, Frazier, your second is up.
Okay, that was my longest second of my life.
Because Frazier, you and I are gonna have to talk. You have good stories. Good stories. I love those. I understand that Dolly Turner is on.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Frazier. Thank you.
Thanks, Frazier. Take care.
Dolly Turner.
Yep, I just allowed her to talk. She'll go ahead, Dolly.
Okay, camera 2, please.
We're gonna cut you, Don, because it doesn't matter.
Miss Commissioner Parks, I have 90 seconds of something to say, and I would like to have my camera on, please, ma'am. Today's my last meeting for 5 years.
Hold on one second, Dolly.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay.
I want to see.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Gordon. I really appreciate it. Listen, I wanted to turn on my camera. I've been working in Councilmember Todd's office for the past 5 years, and I just wanted to share with the residents and the commissioners that I have appreciated an opportunity to work with you to serve the Ward 4 residents, and I wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you very much, Dolly.
Thank you, Dolly. We appreciate you.
I will say thank you, Dolly, because of your hard work. I have a resolution on the agenda tonight that directly relates to the work we've done at Longfellow and North Capitol Street. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's been my pleasure to serve, and it's been a very rewarding experience for me. And I have to say that I think the commissioners in Ward 4 and probably are the hardest working in the city, and you all have done a really amazing job, and I wish you all the best in the future.
Well, Dolly, this is Brenda. I wish you the best. I know you're not going to be still because you're a lady that's always on the go. You're going to find something else to do temporarily, but first of all, rest for the first 6 months and then think about what you're going to do afterwards.
Okay.
But great job. Great job. Well, job done.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. I really appreciate it.
Agreed.
And take care, everyone.
Thank you, Dolly.
Dolly, you will be missed. Take care.
Yeah.
And if I don't see you before the holidays, please have a happy and safe holiday.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Take
You
care.
too. And
Bye-bye.
Take care of your mom. I know that's the first thing on your list. All right. Consent calendar. Item 1, resolution 4B-20-1101, requesting installation of speed humps on the 200 to the 500 block of Quackenbos Street Northeast. And this was submitted by Commissioner Brooks. On item number 2, resolution 4B-20-1102, requested installation of speed hump on the unit block of Kennedy Street Northeast between North Capitol Street Northeast and First Street Northeast, Commissioner Brooks. Item 3, resolution 4B-20-1103, requesting installation of speed hump on 7th Street Northwest between Fern Place Northwest and Dahlia Street Northwest, and this is Commissioner Yates. Item 4, resolution 4B-201104, requesting installation of speed bumps on the 600 block of Madison Street Northwest, and this is Commissioner Red. And we all know that, do I get a move on these?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
I second it.
All right, it's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Abstains? Ayes have it. Thank you. All right, next we have presentation, the Parks at Walter Reed Development Teams and Resolution 4B-20-1105. And this is supporting proposed concept design for the park at Walter Reed Building, QRS. And this is Commissioner Palmer.
Yes, we have some representatives from the Parks at Walter Reed to kick us off with a presentation about the design concept.
And guess what? You have how many minutes? 5 and 5, 3 and 3?
10 and,
Let me check the agenda.
the agenda says 10 and 5.
10 and 5. Okay, go right ahead. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Palmer. My name is Mark Simpson. I'm a developer with Urban Atlantic, who's part of the development team responsible for the parks at Walter Reed. And what we would like to present to you all today is our next multifamily component, which is building Q, R, and S, which will be located at the corner of Dahlia and Georgia. And we thank you very much for your time this evening. I'm going to introduce our development and design teams, and then I'll turn it over to them. I've asked them to try to keep the presentation down to 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'd like to open it up for questions from you all or from the community. So again, my name is Mark Simpson. I'm a development manager with Urban Atlantic. I believe my my boss Vicky is on as well, Vicky Davis, who I think many of you know as well. And we are happy to present a design here from BKV Group, who's a local CBE architecture firm. And so we have Jack Borman and Paul Andrusino. So I'll turn it over to you, Jack and Paul.
Could I say one quick word before
please.
you start, please? Our request to you this evening is related to taking all development at Walter Reed to the Historic Preservation Review Board, HPRB. And to do that, we always like to have the ANC's support. We have the support of ANC 4A. We went through 2 design meetings with the community, represented by 4B, by your commissioners as well. I would say that in my experience as a developer, this project is probably the most positively received project that I have ever experienced from a community perspective. We heard things from people like Faith Wheeler, who lives in 4B, saying she really loved the building. Same thing for Alice Giancola, same thing from Naima Jefferson, who's in 4A. These are all advocates who have been with this project for decades. So I want to set it up for you that way, and I would ask our architects to please go through this presentation in a workmanlike manner, but really try and keep it to 5 minutes so that we can focus on feedback from the community. And we really, really appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight. And so take it away, guys.
Thank you. My name is Jack Borman. I'm the senior partner and office leader for the BKV office here in DC. And as you are probably very familiar, our QRS project here on the corner of Dahlia and Georgia Avenue. Let's just keep going. Next slide. It's all designed within the overall design guides, and most importantly, relating to the historic context of Walter Reed and preserving that character, building these new buildings sensitively so that they become good neighbors to Georgia Avenue and the community, but also to the Walter Reed campus and its historic context, plus the new buildings. So you'll see in our design a very strong sense of the base of the building, which will be activated workspace and work activity space and streetscape space, and then the middle portion of the building, which will reflect the residential units, and then the top called attic floor area, which will be the upper top floor units that have a higher ceiling and can relate to the top of the building historically. So next, please. So our design has been influenced by the overall context of the history of the architectural fabric, and then the new buildings, how they've also helped interpret those guidelines. Next. Very important to the overall design is reactivating the Georgia Avenue streetscape and doing that in a design way that is creative and interesting and articulated and entrepreneurial and really has a sense of variety and interest, with the residential units on the upper 4 floors adding to that overall building character. Next. This is just, I mean, the context of our overall design with buildings 6 and 7 to the west, Georgia Avenue and Dahlia as our edges, and the overall context. We're very concerned and have designed the building so that it fits as a 5-story building within the overall context. Next. This illustrates, and I won't go into huge detail here, but building P, which is the same number of floors, but a bit taller. And then our building, which is really designed as 3 masses along Georgia Avenue. So we've got the Dahlia building, and then the middle building, which is a lighter brick color, and then the south building, which is again a darker brick, but more of a terracotta red. And then these sort of separators between the different buildings, because we really want a small scale character for this building as you walk along Georgia Avenue. Same thing is true as we look at the 12th Street side, where we're relating to buildings 6 and 7, which we're very similar in height and scale. And we're also stepping down the building as we go down 12th to, again, align with the kind of the roof edge of building 7. The west elevation is barely visible from 12th because of 6 and 7 really being more forward and blocking a lot of that rear elevation. We do have interior courtyards between 6 and 7 and our new building as well. Next, please. This is just a section that shows again, the vertical relationship of like the Dahlia apartment building on the corner that's existing, and then our building across the street, virtually the same height. The overall context of Dahlia Street itself, and then how that really relates to basically the same height as building 1. So we really feel we've nestled the new building into the height and massing of the existing buildings, both on Georgia Avenue and on the Walter Reed campus. Next. This, I won't go into detail here, but this is our actual site plan where you see buildings 6 and 7, Georgia Avenue, the buildings across the street, how our building sort of moves back and forth. 30% of our building is set back from Georgia Avenue in a series of different courtyards and entry areas, very similar to how the buildings across the street open up and set back. Next. This is just some of the general context of the overall neighborhood that's been influential in our design. Next. This is our key corner that starts to show the design of the streetscape and how they would be developed out of different colors and different interests. So it really has a sense of variety and interest to reactivate that streetscape. The upper buildings are pretty much as you see them, 3 floors of brick, and then the upper floors as the attic penthouse floors for the upper 5th floor of the building. A little bit higher windows on the 5th floor, some corner balconies, recessed is the overall architectural fabric, and then these divider areas that separate the buildings with these little setback courtyard entry areas. Next. I won't describe these, but we've studied the streetscape and the varying sidewalks of about the boulevards of about 15 feet on both sides. But you can see in this section how things step back and forth. Next. Similar, just showing the modulation of the building along Georgia Avenue to make it look like it fits into the scale and have it be comfortable. Next. Again, at the southernmost building here, we set the 5th floor back 10 feet to be able to create terraces and really relate to the building across the street. Next. This is just some of the materials, our 3 different brick colors, our darker brown, black windows, the overall character. Next. This is a blow up of the streetscapes that show some of the detail, you know, the trees, the overall variety of the character of the streetscape. Next. This is just more of the ins and outs. Next, and more of the elevation studies. This is on Dahlia, where we will be developing the major entrance to the building. It'll be developed in this center area. And it'll be set back to create some interest to the entryway. But again, it'll be a part of that continuous street. Also, as we go towards 12th, we set the building back 25 feet to create an outdoor plaza and an outdoor cafe area that's on the corner of 12th and Dahlia, as you can see in the plaza plan. Next. again, just more studies of how we've developed these 3 buildings as a part of the one main building to help articulate and create interest and scale that's appropriate. Next. More design illustration of how each of the 3 buildings have similarities, but they also have uniqueness. Next. This is just walking around the neighborhood. You can see the scale, how we fit in. Our main entrance on Dahlia. Next. Then looking south on Georgia Ave, as you can again see our building nestled in with the rest. Next. A little bit further down the street, really looking forward to activating that pleasant streetscape to be able to comfortably walk down and feel like you're enjoying a very nice feeling and character and scale. Next. This is looking at 12th south, and you can see the VU building further down. You can really see how our building really nestles in with building 1 and building 7 and 6 as far as heights. You can see our brick datum line and then the attic floor above. Next, at 5 on the 5th floor. This is looking from 12th at our project between building 6 and the end of our building. And, you know, with the landscaping and the trees, you really barely see the backside of our building on the west elevation. But it's really set back 80 to 100 feet. Next. This is from the basic main lawn area of the campus for Walter Reed, and this great lawn view is very precious and very important. And with building 6 and 7, you can just barely see our building sort of cropping up behind that tree between 6 and 7. So we have very little visibility from the lawn. Next. Vicki?
So every building on site has very stringent environmental requirements, including stormwater management. That's why you see green roof on the top of this. We also have significant energy standards at 10% below what the code requires, and meeting LEED Silver for the building overall. So we also have water using facilities like your shower heads and your sinks and tubs, et cetera, to be low flow fixtures as well as your toilets. So again, we try and hit the highest sustainability measures. Go ahead.
This just illustrates the kind of the way the west side of the building relates to 6 and 7. I'm sorry, east side of the building, the courtyards, and kind of again similar to the courtyards on the open courtyards on the end of building 1, I mean it's going to be some lovely spaces for outdoor plaza and sitting areas between the historic 6 and 7 and our new building.
Yeah, I'd like to just add a comment there. Go back to that one, please. What you should take from this presentation is that there are buildings across the street which are on the upper right hand part of this page, and they're pretty much the same height as this building. There are buildings on the west side of this building, including building 7, which has that white line through the top of it. It's a ridge line. And that's on the west side of the building. And then you have another building. Both of those are Howard University buildings, those 2. One's new, the one being circled now. The historic one is the one just next to it. And then you can see building 1 in the background. And basically the height and the distance to all of these buildings takes them well into consideration, and is actually one of the things that was liked the best during our design committee meetings. So I just wanted to add that. Go ahead.
We just welcome your comments on our design and appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
And we're looking for your support in a form of a reference letter that hopefully mirrors the one from 4A. We have taken a fair bit of community input from our first design meeting to the second one, and this was approved unanimously over at 4A. So we are requesting your support for this development, please.
Oh, thank you. Aaron, you had your hand up?
Yes, I'd like to present the actual resolution before we open up for questions. Can you all close down your screen share function so that I have...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Commissioner Bromagem and I are presenting a resolution in support of this design concept for building QRS. As Vicky noted, there was pretty significant community input. Commissioner Watley and 4A held 2 community meetings at which residents from 4B's commission area were present, and the feedback was largely positive. We also received feedback individually from folks that was positive. There was also support from the Walter Reed Community Advisory Committee. Both of those entities passed resolutions in support. We wrote our own resolution for Advisory Neighborhood Commission 4B, noting our support, noting some of the design elements and how they fit in with the historic context. Also recognizing the sidewalk width on Georgia and the commitment that that be as wide as possible, and supporting the retail frontage along Georgia and encouraging locating small businesses at those locations. Jeff, I don't know if you have anything to add with regard to the resolution.
Well, just if it's helpful as a reminder, I serve as the ANC's representative on the Community Advisory Committee. But this development is right across from Aaron's SMD. So that's why we're both authoring the resolution. And as mentioned by both Aaron and Vicky, Commissioner Palmer, excuse me, this design has been really well received all around. So I support it and would encourage others to as well.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to, may I make a note, and I might be
Yes.
totally out of order, but the frontage along Georgia, we didn't touch on that very much, but we made a promise to the community to include local businesses as well as national and regional retail. And honestly, it's not the best time in the market for retail, but we have a very significant commitment, including a Whole Foods in the town center. We have 100,000 square feet of retail in the town center alone. So what we're doing in the area along the frontage of this QRS building is we're actually turning our amenities outward, mostly along Dahlia. So my yoga studio, for instance, if there's a yoga instructor in the neighborhood who wants to come in and do podcast is probably not the right word, but broadcast their yoga, they can come in and do that and work with us. And same for some of the co-working space that is typical for luxury multifamily buildings. So we're creating our amenities now to be outward facing. However, along Georgia, where there's less demand from national and regional retailers because it's further from the town center, we think that there's an opportunity for lower cost retail space that's readily accessible and fully built out for local businesses. Small companies like somebody who has a framing shop or somebody who has a tax office, or, I mean, those are the two that come to my mind, but there are plenty others. Somebody who might have an art studio. And I'm not saying that the rents are subsidized. I'm just saying that they cost a lot less than the ones in the town center. It's not retail. It's live work, which means that it's good for a home-based business, which could be any number of businesses, so that we are hedging our bets a bit in terms of having the ability to have people either live there if there is no need for these businesses there, or have the businesses there and maybe even have the old-timey thing where people can live behind or over the shop. So I just want to be really clear about that. It won't be designated as retail in that area from a zoning perspective. It'll be live work units along Georgia. And I wanted to be very clear about that.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you. Any other commissioners? I saw your hand up, Perry.
Question. Thank you, Commissioner Parks. So, Vicky, let me ask you, about the community consent and the buy-in. What did that process look like, and what did those numbers look like? What was the methodology for getting the support from the community?
So usually what happens is that the community process is led by the ANCs. It's not led by the developer, and it gives it more of a a distanced third-party perspective. Mr. Watley has been doing this for the last 4 years and probably for another 5 years before that. I think we were selected in 2013, and he's really been spearheading it. And what he has done is put together design meetings, and I think he's posted those meetings to the listserv and other places. And usually, it depends on the meeting, but I would have guessed that in the first one, and if one of your commissioners has a different tally than me, I always said there were probably 10 to 20 people in those meetings. They're meetings very much like this. It's like a Zoom call, and the presentation from the architect was a lot longer, and it was a chance to go through those facades piece by piece, and people to say, oh, I like this about the color, I don't like that about the color, I like this about the height. And they had things that they came back with, like, could you check the heights east to west and then north to south? And so north to south, it steps down. East to west, it pays homage to the building number 1 building, which is really critical to the campus. It's the main building, but it's also very careful with the adjacent buildings of number 6 and number 7. And then it's careful with the buildings across the street. Then Alice Giancola raised the issue of how wide is the sidewalk. And so we had a big debate of how wide is the sidewalk with the tree boxes, et cetera. So it gives you a sense of the things that came up. Very, very detailed conversations. From the first meeting, they asked us to address it. In the second meeting, we did that. Then it went to the ANC, then it went to the CAC, and you are the third step.
So you all didn't interact with the community so much, I'm understanding.
We answer questions. We're always there to answer questions like, how do we comply with the design guidelines? How do we meet the requirements that are set for us, et cetera?
And Vicky, the anchor of Whole Foods, that will, or you all believe that Whole Foods would accommodate this community of folks, even the ones who are living on subsidized settings, right?
So Whole Foods, I feel like we worked so hard to get them. We tried a lot of different grocery stores, believe me. But I feel like we've had them under contract for a year. The building that they're going to be in is actually under construction now. If you drive by the site up towards Dahlia and Georgia, you'll see that there's a big crane up. So there's a crane there, and that's working on the Whole Foods building. Sometimes we call that building IJ. Sometimes we call it the Hartley, its marketing name. But we expect that to deliver by the end of 22. And I think Whole Foods is very sensitive to the community. They're sensitive to community hiring, as are we. We are very sensitive to certified business enterprises, CBEs, and meeting our quota on the site, which we have meet and beat consistently. So I just want you to know that. It's very important to us as part of how we do business, as well as the first source agreements. We also have a very extensive affordability program on this site where we have a commitment to deliver 432 units dispersed throughout the community. And we're actually on schedule to probably deliver maybe 20 more units than what that provided for. So for those of you who don't know, we already have veterans and seniors living at the site. Those are the first units we produced. It is part of a way that we meet our commitment to the community and what the community asked for. And this building will include affordable housing units as well. It's approximately 8%.
Okay, any other commissioners?
Commissioner Parks, I have 2 questions and I'll try and be very quick. One is I was confused by the rendering along 12th Street, in part because I didn't hear you mention parking or parking in this building at all, access to parking, and then your rendering along 12th Street appeared to show parking lane, but people walking in it. So I'm confused as to what your plan is for parking the site. And if you want to pull the picture back up, I'm happy to ask it there.
Yeah, I'd like you to pull the isometric from the backside of the building from 12th Street, please. Please pull the isometric. Thank you. So, do you see kind of a swimming pool? Do you see that little blue thing there?
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. There's a curb cut there. Do you see that?
Yes.
That goes down a ramp that's next to building number 7. It goes down from elevation 282 down to 272. And there is one level of parking below the building. It's parked at a 0.7 ratio, which is with this site has an overall parking max that is required by the city at 3,500 parking spaces. We will meet that max. But parking for this building is designated to be underneath the building. And look, so far we're selling condos, and I would say that we have had less requests for parking than we otherwise would have. You all should know as a content that there is ample street parking in Walter Reed. However, it will all be metered by the city. So those will be public streets with parallel metered parking, just like you'd see in any CBD.
So is the plan then that that'll be all condo designated, or will any of it be retail designated parking under the building?
There won't be retail designated parking because there isn't retail in the building. We have retail as amenities turned outward. There's also 1,100 parking spaces underneath the town center. They already exist. So there's parking there. There's parking underneath this building, and the amenities will face outward and provide a retail opportunity for people from the outside of the community to be invited in, as will the live work. But the live work is along Georgia, and there's street parking on Georgia.
So then the second question I have is, and I've heard this from a couple constituents, are there opportunity zone tax credits involved in the financing of this project or the other Walter Reed projects?
Out of 8 projects to date, one of them has opportunity zone funding on it and the others do not. The funding for this property is not in place at this point in time.
Can you tell me which project it is that took OZ credits?
IJ, the Whole Foods.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Commissioner Parks, can we have community questions now?
Yes, you can. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm happy to read, Gordon, if you want.
Go ahead. I'm gonna just to kick us off, I'm gonna have David Eubanks start because he wrote a couple good questions here.
Yeah, and he's already he can ask them live then.
Yep. Hold on one second, David.
Could I say one other thing? After
Sure,
we closed on our seniors affordable housing, the investor in that asked if they could take opportunity zone credits, and they did. So I have actually 2. And that was a reminder that was just sent to me by Caroline. So I apologize for that.
Go ahead, David.
Great. Thank you all. Appreciate the presentation. Just a few questions for you. I didn't hear a unit count per building. I was just wondering how many units you were building.
I think that it is in the 330 unit range, but I'm not sure on final unit count yet, and I haven't seen the layout on the inside of the building yet.
Okay, and do you have a percentage of affordable
8%.
units for that building?
8%.
Okay, thank you. And then do you have an average rent?
No, I don't.
Is there any way you could share that with us at a later date?
Oh, we would be happy to share that with you at a later date. We're actually, COVID has not been a friend towards developers. Rents in the city generally have declined. We're trying to figure out where the rents will shake out to have a feasible project. We are taking the risk of going through the design process, which obviously costs us money to get through. But we're finding our way through the rent analysis right now, so it actually is not in place.
You must have a ballpark though.
I would tell you that in general, rents in Walter Reed, the market rate rents are in the $3 a square foot range, somewhere in there. It depends on unit size though, but I don't know. I mean, it could be a little bit higher, it could be a little bit lower. I hope it's a little bit higher, but that's where it is now. And typically I would tell you that our units skew square footage wise, typically smaller than competition by 10 to 20%.
Okay, and so do you have can you give me an average square foot? I'm not sure what
I cannot. It's probably going to be somewhere in the low 7s to somewhere in there. I can't give, I don't want to ever give you information that I can't stand by. So I don't have a final number.
And then Vicky, David did ask in the chat, when will the townhome construction begin?
Let me orient you to the plan, and Paul, if you wouldn't mind helping me. There's townhouses at the north end. Look up there. So those we're working through with Toll Brothers, and working. We're at a point where we're trying to figure out our path forward right now. Zoom out, please. And then down on the south end, we actually, this is lovingly called WXY. As a site. It's in the middle here. And you might, those of you who have been with the ANC for a while might recall that we have been to you before with that development. And honestly, we had hoped to proceed with detailed design and land development this year. However, HPRB has asked us on that one to come back this year. And so I'm working with Commissioner Watley to see if instead of having everybody do a do-over on the process that you already approved, if we can do a small amendment for some small design changes. Totally your call, but you should be seeing us soon on that, probably in the next 2 months. And then it takes about 6 months to a year for land development on both of those. And so that's 2021. And so construction would start in 2022, ideally with deliveries. And if you ask me for unit count, I don't have a final unit count, but I think I'm somewhere close to 120 on the northern parcel. And the one on the south, we had started out at 56 units, and now we're down to 50 units that we're proposing. So those are some of the small changes that we're trying to make. And we're really excited about them. I know we're selling condos right now at the Brooks, and people come in every day looking for townhouses. So I'm well aware that there's an urgent demand. Got it.
And then Jocelyn, I believe that I allowed your phone to be unmuted. So go ahead and dial *6 there, and you should be able to ask a question. Go ahead.
Okay. I just really want to find, mine's a little different because I've heard a lot of conversation to find out, is it like a secret to know what stores are going to be here? Tonight, hearing about Whole Foods is good, but Whole Foods is in Silver Spring. What about other stores and 66 acres of land? You know, what are some of the big ticket stores that's going to be there? Was there any conversation about Wegmans, or what are the other stores? People kind of think that it's a secret, and people are, the residents of Ward 4 can't know what stores are going to propose to be coming in.
As you may or may not be aware, Wegmans is who we had brought to the table on this. And when they finished their market study, they decided that they would prefer to be in a different section of the city than in this section. So they're going over to Wisconsin Avenue, down where the old Fannie Mae thing, near Sidwell Friends, if that means anything to anybody here. So that's where they're headed. Whole Foods, we thought was the second best alternative, and really I think that they are a good choice. So they have been announced. The way this works is retailers do not like to be announced except for on their own terms and in their own time frame. And so you'll never see a presentation of us, for instance, even though Whole Foods is announced, you'll never see anything with their logo on it from us because we're not authorized to use it. So it's a very it's like somebody's own proprietary product. And so I can't announce other retail until the retailers tell us that it can be announced. So the only other one that I can tell you about is Primrose, which is a child care center, which is going to be at VU, which is called the Vale now. The marketing name is the Vale, and that is at Georgia and Aspen. So, and we have a space there that'll, we think it's very possible for a great retailer. Can't tell you who it is. And the same goes for the rest of the town center. I cannot tell you until they release us.
And there are no other questions, but I'm gonna take the last one myself. In addition to helping ANC 4B out, I'm a reporter, and I cover a lot of transportation. And so, can you guys? So you mentioned inviting streetscapes and walkable streetscapes, but I'm fairly alarmed that none of these renderings show any type of bicycle facilities. This is a giant site. And Georgia Avenue is extremely dangerous, but a large percentage of this area are transit and bike by necessity commuters. And so, can you talk about how some of those internal streets or those streetscapes will be improved for vulnerable users?
Indeed, and I am so glad that you raised that, and I feel terrible for not mentioning it before. So, Paul, if you would help me and run your cursor up and down 12th Street. So as part of the master plan for Walter Reed, 12th Street hooks together with Main Drive and then comes down Cameron. So could you please show where it goes all the way down to Aspen? This is indeed the area that will have both wider sidewalks for those less proficient at bike riding, like people with small children. And then it has bike lanes in the roads. They're standard DDOT sections. So that you have a north-south means that is different than Georgia Avenue. That was at the request of the community who actually did plan this site, and we just took that plan and are implementing it. So yes, that would be the main north-south connection through the site. In fact, it's the only one that really allows us to go all the way north-south. However, we also have Main Drive, which is that serpentine road through the site, which is lovely. It's a little bit under construction right now. Pepco is visiting us for power lines underground. And so we love that they're there, but it's not the best time to ride your bike here because it's under construction, a little bit bumpy. But that's a main east-west connector inside the site. Then on Aspen, you may or may not be aware that DDOT is redoing Aspen Street, and it will include an 8 or 10 foot wide hiker biker trail along the north side of Aspen. And you may or may not know that Walter Reed dedicated 20 feet of the southern portion of our site to be added to the right of way so that it could provide space for that hiker biker trail as well as additional parking along Aspen. In addition to that, there is a path that will connect between those townhouses and that building on the left side of the townhouses, affectionately called Building 17 or Karin's house, which is currently under construction by So Others Might Eat. As formerly homeless seniors housing, there's a trail that goes down through there that connects Main Drive to the future hiker biker trail on Aspen. And in an ideal world, and this would be a great thing for communities to ask for, I know it's not in your ANC, but Aspen kind of goes right into Sherrill Drive down into the park. It's super duper steep. It doesn't have a walkway there. And it's something to really nudge the Park Service about if you have the energy and time to do that, because I think it creates really good pedestrian and bicyclist connection into the park, which is a great resource. So that's my general sense of things. Thank you. Thank you for asking the question.
Sure, and thank you. And I will add that to my list of things to ask NPS about. And then the last question just for you is, you mentioned the street parking spaces being metered, as they would in a central business district. Yes. So does that mean that, those storefront retail spaces have seen a huge growth in pickup drop off in things like deliveries? So is DDOT the place where the community should go about talking about pickup drop off zones or things like that?
Indeed. Yes, they are, but you are probably 3 years out ahead of them because I don't think that they will accept these roads into service until 2 or 3 years from now, best case.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, no
There
problem.
was
No more
Commissioner-
questions?
Commissioner Parks, there was one question in the chat, said, what about making sure there are Black-owned businesses and co-ops as well? That's from Brianna McGowan.
So that's a great question. We always do try to prioritize businesses from Ward 4 to the extent that we can. In our construction, we have a goal of 35% CBE participation. We have been asked to tally the number of minority-owned businesses, which we do periodically. We have a commitment to our neighborhood. And so what I would urge the ANC, because you are such a great convener of businesses and interests, and you really know your community best, is if you have people that you know who would like to have a small business here or a retail area, or even if they have a great big business, I would strongly encourage you to put them in touch with us. You can always give them my phone number specifically, and I would be delighted to speak with anybody. My number is 301-252-0152, Vicki Davis, and we would love to have local businesses here. I can tell you that we were the developers of the Rhode Island Avenue Metro Station, and we had more than 10% local and minority-owned businesses there. So it definitely is close to our hearts and something that we would strongly encourage.
Okay, thank you, Vicki. We need to move on. Aaron gave us the resolution, and so we are now ready to make a motion.
I'll move the approval of the resolution.
I'll second.
All right, it has been moved and second that the resolution for Walter Reed Development Center 4B-20-1105. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nay?
Nay.
One nay. Okay. Ascertain? All right. Yes, has it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank your staff so much. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you so much, everyone. We
All
appreciate
right.
it. Have a good night.
Our next presentation is Rank the Vote DC in Resolution 4B-20-1106, calling for ranked choice voting in the District of Columbia.
Gordon,
Commissioner Palmer.
we should have Brianna McGowan, and I think Sam might be here also. I'm not sure. Sam Jared Bonar, but Brianna is here for sure.
And what was their minutes? We know that Vicki and her team took longer because of the development of Walter Reed. And I know that I have been sitting, I know last 4 years about the renovation of Walter Reed. So I knew that was going to take a long time because they're doing such good work at Walter Reed.
Commissioner, this is a 5 and 5.
5 and 5, thank you.
Yeah, if Brianna, I think you're on, you can unmute yourself and chat for a few minutes, and then I can present the resolution.
Hello. I'll also turn on the camera. Sam has joined with me today. Hi, folks.
Hello, everyone.
We just tuned in. I'm assuming we're talking about ranked choice voting. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well, it's a democracy reform to strengthen our democracy. We are the lead organizers for Rank the Vote DC, which is a broad coalition focused on making sure that the voices of DC are represented in the coalition as you work with council members to pass a ranked choice voting bill. Do you want to explain what ranked choice voting does?
Yeah, ranked choice voting is pretty simple. It's like 1, 2, 3. It gives voters the power to it gives voters the power to rank their preferences if they'd like. And knowing that if their first choice doesn't win, then their vote automatically goes to their second choice. And that keeps happening until someone wins with a real majority.
So basically, you'll be able to rank your preferences and just like Sam said, and I think what makes this such a salient democracy reform is that our politics is more divisive than ever.
Toxic.
It's extremely, yeah, toxic. And one way to kind of change the rules of the game is to make people form broad coalitions. By people, I mean candidates, to actually engage with voters and say, here's why I should be not only your first choice, but your second choice or your third choice.
And it even encourages, if someone, you know, right now, if you see someone has a yard sign of your opponent, you just keep walking. But here you could still try and work with them to get their second or their third choice. So it changes the entire dynamic and the culture of elections.
One of the reasons why I really love it is that the data has shown that it increases electability and success, I should say, and the fact that there's more people in the running, women and people of color, which is extremely important as we want to increase representation of our communities and make our democracy more equitable and fairer. So what I like to say when I talk to the people is like, ranked choice voting in like the most simplest terms is an equity tool, put equity in power.
And we'd be happy to answer any questions, technical or also other ways that there's lots of ways that this benefits the system. So happy to hear people's thoughts.
Thank you so much. I'm going to very briefly just introduce the resolution and then we can open it up to questions. So I've drafted a resolution calling for ranked choice voting in the District of Columbia. It notes how the process works, that it's the ranking of preferences and not a first past the post type election. Ranked choice voting is currently used in more than 19 localities, including the state of Maine, a county in Oregon, and several cities, including Tacoma Park, Maryland, which is quite close to us. 5 state Democratic parties use ranked choice voting in the presidential primary. The DC Council has considered ranked choice voting a few times and it seems to have stalled. So there's some renewed energy around it, particularly thanks to Rank the Vote. And it has been supported by the Statehood Green Party, the Ward 3 Democrats, other advisory neighborhood commissions, and a coalition of organizations led by Rank the Vote, including the League of Women Voters, DC for Democracy, Jews United for Justice, Sunrise Movement, and a few other organizations. Some of the advantages that I think are pretty notable is ranked choice voting dissolves concerns about vote splitting and can better reflect voter preferences. Ranked choice voting allows broader representation of voices and perspectives in our elections. Ranked choice voting encourages candidates to build coalitions and strengthen communities. There's some research that negative campaigning goes down with ranked choice voting systems, which would be really great. Ranked choice voting encourages greater engagement from candidates and among voters. There's some research that people are more likely to talk about politics with their friends and neighbors under a ranked choice voting system. And voters who operate under a ranked choice voting system speak generally favorably about it. It's also easy and intuitive. If you think about it, the idea that you can sequentially rank your preferences and have that factor into who ultimately has a majority has a lot of appeal to it, and gives value to thinking through your whole slate of preferences and not just trying to think about who would win or who's viable, and all that type of stuff. So that's the presentation. I guess we can open up to questions now.
Commissioners, I saw your hand, Commissioner Red.
Yep, Commissioner Red here. Thank you, Bree and Sam, for your presentation, and thank you, Aaron, for your drafting of the resolution. I'm of a different party persuasion. Ranked choice voting is highly important to me. Bree and Sam, share with me the benefits for third parties or alternative parties in the city, not necessarily independents who run, Democrats who run as independents. No, I'm speaking of the those who are not of the dominant party in the district. How does ranked choice voting, if you could explain it to my fellow commissioners, benefit those entities who haven't been elected to the council in over a generation?
Yeah, so what's kind of interesting is that ranked choice voting doesn't inherently help any ideology, but what it does do is it legitimizes, like you're saying, independents, third parties, and other options, because
the other options, I just want to jump in and say, like, people from underinvested communities, people from underserved communities who don't have a machine or resources to compete against, like, really wealthy candidates or candidates who can really get a large machine behind them to throw money at their campaigns. It encourages people to actually run and be considered, like, as Sam said, legitimate.
Yeah, I think Aaron said this really well. It's just that it eliminates the concerns about splitting the vote, spoilers. I think this is easiest to get from a national perspective than it is from DC, but you know, right now everyone always vote shames people who vote third party, especially in swing states. If those states had this would make it such that you can vote for, you're free to vote for who you really want, right? Whoever that is, even if they're not electable or they're a little out there or whatever it is, right? You can vote for them.
Or they might actually just represent your values.
Right, exactly. You can vote for your values. And then you can rank the more electable person.
Please, because you're talking over each other.
Sorry.
I tend to do that.
Sam, let me just to help you clarify, because that's a difficult question for you to answer, I see. But ideology isn't the issue. The issue is ranked choice voting. Does it help those of other party affiliations? And that's where the lack of democracy in DC is an issue. And it's difficult, even though the Statehood Green Party, which I'm a member of, is supporting an initiative to go forth in 2021, where we are putting it to the voters. We're working on that. And there are some elements that we're missing in our resolution, which I'm supporting our resolution, but some elements that need to address the lack of democracy, small d, which is important with an instant runoff voting model, or what you're calling ranked choice voting, that needs to be addressed. But what it does is how can I say, it mitigates this Democrats running as independents and levels the playing field. So thank you for your presentation, and thank you for allowing me to pose a question to you.
Absolutely. I'm sorry we're jumping around there.
I wanted to say that I was jumping in over Sam, which Allison pointed out, and apologize, which is there's a culture in DC, like, wait your turn. And the first time you run for a campaign is just to get your name out there. It's not really like you're hoping to win. And I think that's a totally demoralizing model. So I think ranked choice voting also addresses that as well.
Okay, any more from the commissioners?
So I don't have a question, but I have a quick comment. I just want to say that I support this resolution. We use ranked choice voting in the labor union I'm a member of at the most basic level to decide who our unit officers are. And it's great. It, like, promotes coalition building. It gets people to work together. And I actually think the ballots are really simple, and it prevents someone from in the large fields, they prevent someone with a very small number of votes, right? You have 12 people that are interested in office, and you end up being governed by someone who only has 12% of the vote, but has the most ardent supporters, right? Instead of by people that maybe everybody could agree they would rather have, right? So if you have 9 people who have 5% of the vote between them, who everybody generally likes, that one of their candidates generally gets over 50%. Whereas right now you just have the hardcore minority take the first place vote. And so I found it really helpful in that matter. And that's my example from my own personal life.
Bria and Sam, are you all Washingtonians?
Wait.
Yes, of course. We're in Edgewood.
All right. Any more commissioners?
There's also some questions in the chat. I'm not sure what the right way to answer those.
Okay, hold on.
I'll read those in a moment.
All right, go ahead, Alvin, read the chat, please.
Any other commissioners first before I do? Okay.
No.
So from Paula, how do you anticipate mitigating some of the downsides of ranked choice voting, such as a more difficult audit trail, more difficult recounts, increased administrative costs, and also can we get rid of primaries?
So I'll say this, I'm not sure exactly how it would make the audit trail or the recount more difficult. So I'd be interested to hear why they think that. I think the administrative costs, generally there's no more expensive to run an election like this. It would take some cost to do voter education, which I think is one of the other questions about which we'd love, where that's sort of a central part of our coalition is trying to build more voter education resources.
The primaries.
Oh, you want to talk about the primaries? Or?
Sure. I mean, as far as getting rid of primaries, I think that would be great because primaries typically determine the outcome of an election, and then the general comes and it's like the race has already been decided. So I think it would be great to get rid of primaries, but that is a huge ask. And I'm open to hearing what the different communities think, but just from our advocacy, it seems like a good first step is to implement ranked choice voting and then focus on whether or not we should get rid of the primaries.
Or have a blanket primary, which is one primary for all the different parties and all the different candidates, and then having a ranked choice runoff as the general. So there's different ideas, and I think we're really open to changing our systems of power to make sure they work for the people. And we think ranked choice voting is just the first step towards having more responsive democracy in the future.
Uchenna wants to know, I'm trying to understand exactly what problems specifically in DC ranked choice voting is supposed to solve and whether it will actually solve that problem. For example, how would it work in a field of 12 or 24 candidates?
So our most recent, a couple things. It solves toxicity in politics. I think that people are more encouraged to run healthier campaigns and to form coalitions where they actually answer issues rather than focusing on these negative zero-sum toxic ego games that a lot of politicians tend to engage in. As far as
Can I take a second?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So with a large field of candidates, I think that's the most immediate need, as we saw in the at-large race, which is right now with fair elections, we're getting all these incredible candidates running. And like we're saying, we may not have the fairest outcome when you have, Commissioner Yates was saying, we don't always have the fairest outcome under our current system when there's a lot of candidates running. So in a bigger field, I think ranked choice voting would guarantee that we have a more consensus candidate that more of the voters or a majority of the voters actually support, or at least could support, even if it's their backup.
I would just add to that I think even thinking about the last election, my vote selections would have changed. I voted on people I thought were electable, and I had preferences that were in a different place than that. So I'm not sure specifically in that race how it would have affected outcome, but I would have been able to better reflect my preferences by voting in that way.
There is evidence that Paula says there's evidence that older voters, infrequent voters, and voters for whom English is a second language have difficulty with ranked choice voting as a system. What types of voter education do you envision to overcome this problem?
Great question. So I think one of the main things as we build our coalition is to make sure that all voices of DC are represented in the coalition. So DC Latino Caucus is working on translating all of our materials into Spanish, and we're working on getting Amharic translation as well. As far as voter education, do you want to take that? I feel like there's different ways that we're going about it.
So I can talk a little about voter education. First, I want to, the evidence that I've seen, the data is that voters do not find this more confusing, that ranked choice voting is a very intuitive idea. People do it all the time.
In fact, don't DC public schools, you rank?
DC public schools, parents rank their different preferences for schools. So I think it's something that's very intuitive. I think, and the data has shown in cities and states that have used it that there's not an increase in voter confusion or an increase in bad like incomplete ballots or anything like that. And I think with voter education, I think we really want people to just start using it and start to think more about how these systems of power in our city affect all the issues that they care about, and how we need more accurate, stronger systems of democracy that determine who's in power in order to connect it to the issues that are closer to them. So and we're also doing teach-ins
with Working Families Party. It's
it's just
the title kind of, I don't know, like it's still being planned out, but it's laying the foundation for Black independent political power in DC with ranked choice voting. I'm super stoked about it, but I think there's other ways to do community voter education outside of what the Board of Election will do, which is like canvassing, flyering, literally walking the neighborhoods and talking to residents about ranked choice voting.
And we're also planning to tie it to statehood, which to explore how this lays the groundwork for, once we can control our own destiny, our own systems here, how do we want them to actually work instead of just taking what we've been given and exploring becoming, we call it, the other training we're making is the ambassadors of the future. So how do we build a sort of a system where, as a future 51st state, people can be play a more meaningful role in
a government that will work for the people, by the people.
Final question from the chat. Tisha Cockrell wants to know, how would ranked choice voting fare with big name, long time running candidates versus unknown new candidates?
Yeah, so under our current system, the big name, long running candidates often do well, whether or not they have a good track record, because they have money, if they have name recognition. This allows unknown newer candidates to still come in the game and have a more equal footing, because they're not considered not electable anymore, because if they come up with a really powerful statement and have a really great vision that connects with voters, then they can win.
Voters won't feel bad for voting for them. Also with big name, long running candidates, one of the, in my opinion, greatest things about ranked choice voting is that they actually have to work for your vote. They can't just expect to get your vote every single time. They have to earn it.
All right.
Okay, one more, Allison.
Comments.
So I'm sorry, Evan, I couldn't hear you. Were you talking?
I just said that's the end of the chat for the community comments.
Okay, so I actually was expecting, I guess, a presentation in the sense that you were going to have something that documents and supports your theory. I feel like this is an opinion right now and not a specific and strongly supported argument. And maybe that's me, then how I'm receiving it, but I don't feel like I'm getting the information I need that answers my question. Like, what are you going to do to educate people besides translate things into other language about this process, for example? Or why are you saying that it levels the playing field when there are plenty of unknown candidates that have held office in DC already, who you could say were not, the name brand candidate for whatever it is they were running for at the time?
Okay, we're gonna give 2 more minutes.
So there's a lot to unpack there. So there's lots of great data, and we will forward to Aaron.
So
what?
But you're not presenting it currently. You're telling.
I didn't realize that we were supposed to.
Yeah, I didn't know we needed
Otherwise, we would have had a presentation for this.
Yeah, I apologize for that. There's lots of good presentations, and so we will definitely follow up to sort of. There's incredible data on how it works and how that backs up all these claims. And in terms of what we're doing with voter education, I think it really comes down to training advocates and ambassadors to talk about it and to just hit the pavement, doing teach-ins, canvassing, and talking to folks to understand the impact of it.
And also working with the Board of Elections to make sure they have a robust voter education program should ranked choice voting be passed.
And I dropped one of the websites I know has ranked choice voting fact information, but you guys go ahead to drop more information you have in the chat.
This is Commissioner Johnson. I just wanted to thank both of you. This was really informative for me. who is a little less versed or was a little less versed in regards to ranked choice voting. I found what you provided was a really good catalyst for further discussion. So I thank you both for attending tonight, and I look forward to working with you more in the future.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Brill and Sam. Thank you so much because we are more highlighted on ranked voting. Aaron read these resolution to us. Are we ready to vote? If so, motion.
I'll move the resolution.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay. Nay.
Nay.
Abstain.
So it was just Commissioner Huff and Commissioner Brooks opposed. I just want to make sure I have the vote right.
Parks opposed. Commissioner Parks too.
Okay.
6-3.
Okay, Aaron, would you call us by SMD, please? Let's vote.
Okay, 4B01,
Aye.
4B02, aye, 4B03,
Sorry, I don't know why my space bar wasn't working. Aye.
sorry, I'm trying to take notes and look at you. 4B04,
No.
4B05,
Aye.
4B06,
Aye.
4B07,
Aye.
4B08,
Nay.
4B09.
Nay. Go ahead, Aaron. Ayes have it.
Yeah, 6 yes.
All right, ayes have it. Thank you. All right, number 7, resolution 4B-20-1107, supporting the preliminary design concept and providing initiative community input for 6928 Maple Street Northwest. And this is Commissioner Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. Gordon, if you could please find Laura Fernandez and Eli Borick. They're the
Sure thing.
we didn't ask them for a formal presentation, but they're here to answer questions if there are any. I can start out just with a reminder for those who have been with us in last month's meeting, and a quick summary for those who weren't. This is a proposed development that would happen in the Tacoma Historic District, and therefore before they would go to this the Historic Preservation Review Board, there's an opportunity for public input on the proposed design. So I held a community meeting in September about it, and then they presented to the commission in our October meeting. I think it's been very well received. This site, there's currently a home on the lot that's address is 6950 Maple Street. It's been the home of Rhizome DC for years. And so we've heard a lot of comments about that. But otherwise, this proposed project would move the house on the lot and build a larger building next to it that would be a source for new deeply affordable voucher housing. And so I think that that's been really well received. And the purpose of the resolution tonight is, because of the nature of the site, to weigh in on the general concept and say the concept is that the community supports it and the general massing that's proposed. And then when they go back through historic, we would have another opportunity to weigh in on a lot of the design elements like materials and windows and that sort of thing. So I will maybe pause there. I don't know if Eli or Laura, if you wanted to say anything before we open it up to the commissioners.
Thanks, Jeff. This is Eli Borick. I just wanted to add a little bit of information about Rhizome. I know there were a lot of community concerns, which we've been aware of since the very beginning, and I've been in communication with Rhizome since we started looking at this property. We actually have reached an agreement with them where it just would end up, it seems like, being too disruptive for them to remain or to come back to the property rather after potentially a 16 to 18 month vacancy where they would have to move to a different space. So we've reached an agreement where they are welcome to stay until after our building permit is issued. And then we will be paying for their rent in another space within the community for the following 12 months. So they have accepted that proposal, and we're happy to be able to keep them within the community and have this development move forwards as well. So that was the only thing I wanted to add, Jeff.
Thank you for that, and I do appreciate you working with Rhizome on that. I know, as I said, it's been something that we've been hearing a lot about, and it's a really loved institution. So that's great news. I guess, are there questions from the commissioners?
Commissioner Johnson, just a quick question. Is your agreement just if they find another place in the existing community, or will it transfer to other communities if they cannot find one in the current community in which they have existed for some time?
Yeah, it is not specific to Tacoma Park. So I believe, obviously this isn't necessarily my business to ask them, but I believe that they would like to remain within the Tacoma Park community. That was our understanding, and I think that's where they want to stay. But our agreement with them is not specific to that community. So wherever they wind up, we will be subsidizing and paying for their rent for the following 12 months. And no matter where they're moving, they're obviously welcome to remain in the house until after our building permit is issued.
And has that been authenticated in writing?
Yes, it has.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions, any chat questions, Evan?
Yes, we have some questions in the chat. In the Q&A, David Eubanks, is the project 100% affordable? Why not include some market rate units? Mixed developments carry less stigma, are less complicated to manage, and may provide more opportunity to tenants. Was a mixed income development considered? And I'll let you guys answer, but I'm going to take a moment to editorialize, and that one of the reasons I support this project is because it is 100% affordable. We have lots of market rate housing in our community. It's a very wealthy community, and the very act of adding affordable housing makes it a mixed income community rather than having to have it all be in one building. But I'll let you guys take that as well.
Thank you, Evan. Yes, our business model, our company, the developments that we build in DC are all 100% affordable when we're intending to build any affordable housing project. And the reason for that is actually we have found that we have a team, we have our own in-house management team. We have put together a team that specializes in supporting the residents that are going to be moving in here, supporting them in terms of paperwork that's required to be able to move in. We have specialized programming that we're bringing to residents, specifically geared towards voucher holders. And, we have certain buildings that are, for example, primarily veteran VA voucher holders, and we bring specialized programming to them versus different types of programming for the types of voucher holders that will likely be moving to a project like Maple Street. So we, that's really what we specialize in. And, you know, we've put together a team on the leasing side, on the management side, et cetera, that really is geared towards that. So there really wasn't much consideration to answer the initial and I guess impetus question to have a mixed income building here. As the commissioner just stated, you know, that it is a very high income neighborhood. That's where we generally look to place these buildings. We're building buildings in Glover Park, in Adams Morgan, Tacoma Park, 16th Street Heights, specifically because that type of housing has not been traditionally supported in those neighborhoods. So that's our business model. That's where we, that's, you know, how we manage our buildings, and that's the type of tenants that we build them for.
I see nothing else in the chat. I also wanted to thank you really quickly for the improvement in the sidewalk designs that we saw from before. There's a lot more clarity and they look bigger to me at least. Oh, we actually, speaking of, there's now a question in the chat about having walked the area numerous times, I still cannot realistically envision enough space for two-way traffic, street parking, bicycle, scooter, skateboard traffic, and a sidewalk large enough to allow for pedestrians in both ways.
So our sidewalk, unfortunately, I don't have the PDF or presentation capabilities here, but the presentation that we had shown you before shows a sidewalk that is equivalent on both sides to the sidewalks that have been designed and approved for, I believe it's 218 Maple and the next building up on Vine Street, both recently approved projects. There we go. Okay. So 218 Vine Street and 221 to 225 Vine Street. So we designed our sidewalks with setback, et cetera, to conform with both sidewalks that had been approved for those two buildings. And actually the sidewalk on both Vine and Maple actually extends onto our property over the property line. So we've increased the width of the sidewalk to, I believe it's a 6-foot sidewalk, which is more than the DDOT standard. And that's not including the 2-foot grass strip that separates the sidewalk from the street. So there, I believe there isn't street parking on that side of the street as well. So that provides the buffer between the 6-foot sidewalk and the traffic lanes.
And I guess from my perspective, for those who aren't aware, I know the other commissioners are well aware, we've had other developments on Vine Street come through the commission in the past 2 years. And, you know, especially with 225 Vine Street, you know, I pushed them to get as much of a sidewalk on Vine as I could, because we know that's a very narrow street. So those, from my point of view, I think that we got an 8-foot sidewalk from them, and that was the reasonable best that I think we could have done on that. And so they're looking to match that here and provide the continuity that I think is useful. But it, you know, the Vine Street's narrow, Maple Street's narrow, and we're working with those constraints as best we can.
And actually, I don't know, I can't remember if our renderings are included in this exhibit or not, but we had some renderings that do show the sidewalk with the grass strip and the setback, the building setback as well, which, you know, give you probably some idea of how walkable that really will be and how comfortable it will be.
Commissioner Parks, Chair Parks, I see no more questions in the chat.
I guess the only other thing I would note here is that before I move the motion is that I wrote it as a roll call vote because that's how we've done the previous development issues that I've had to bring before the commission. So if I could, I would ask for a roll call vote just out of simplicity for how I wrote it. I guess if there aren't any other questions from the commissioner, I will move that we approve the resolution I drafted as written.
I second that motion.
Thank you. It has been moved and second. Commission, you ready to vote? Aaron, roll call vote, please.
4B01,
Aye.
4B02, yes. 4B03,
Aye.
4B04,
Aye.
4B05,
Aye.
4B06,
Aye.
4B07,
Aye.
4B08,
Aye.
4B09,
Aye.
9.
All right, it's been approved. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you
I
all.
think we're gonna move right along because it's 9:25 and everybody ayes and nays are getting very slow. Okay, it's been a long day. Number 8, presentation, Cousin O'Connor, Resolution 4B-201108, supporting requested variance for 11 Nicholson Street Northwest, BZA 20390, and this is Commissioner Johnson.
I believe Meredith Moldenhauer is awaiting to be called in.
Hold on one second.
What's the minutes?
It's 5 and 5.
Okay, thank you.
Meredith, you should be able to talk in 1 second.
And then Gordon, is it okay if I share my screen?
Yep, you should be able to.
Okay.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Meredith Moldenhauer. I'm here this evening on behalf of Potomac Venture Group LLC. As you can see, the building in the picture here is an existing apartment building. Next slide, please, Commissioner. It is located in the R1B district, and the property was a purpose-built apartment building that was built in the 1930s. It has an existing certificate of occupancy for 19 units, as well as a ground floor grocery retail use. The proposal here is to convert a cellar level into a 20th unit. There would be no exterior structural changes to the building, and the proposal is only to create one new unit in the current unused cellar space. Next slide. So here you can see the existing building, and Commissioner Johnson and I walked around the property. You can't see it from this image because Google wouldn't allow me, but there is existing space on the exact opposite side of where we are along an internal walkway, where the cellar portion of the structures actually has above grade windows, and that is the area that we were talking about. Next slide. And this is just an image you can see on the bottom left-hand corner, the windows that are kind of the above grade cellar windows. This is the proposed small cellar unit. The next slide. The request here is a variance because of the existing non-conforming nature of an apartment building in an R1B district. But the fact that it is a unique property that is on a large, already improved existing apartment building in this area, and that the underutilized space could not be utilized for anything else. And the proposal here creates a minimum to try to minimize any impact or disruption on tenants rather than trying to, make a unit larger where a tenant may not then be interested in a larger unit. And so at the end of the day, the request here is for a variance, but it's a variance to create one more unit than exists at the property, going from 19 to 20, but having no structural changes to the property at all. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Any questions, Commissioner? Thank you so much. Meredith.
Before we have questions, I just will say that I did in fact tour the property. There will be no external construction. There will be minimal internal structure. This is a area that had already been planned for an additional unit, but was never used as such. So we're now just building on what was the initial plan when the initial owners bought the property. The contractor, excuse me, I'm sorry, the owner and the law firm that is working with the owner have polled individuals who live there. They're well aware of the request and have had no adverse reactions to it. I've also polled the community and have not received any responses in the negative. And there's a subsequent resolution that I hope will be passed to allow this to go forward.
All right, thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Meredith. Commissioners, any questions?
Just one.
Go
Just
ahead.
one. This Commissioner Ray. Tiffany, you said you didn't receive any responses in the negative. Did you receive any responses, period?
I received 1 or 2 responses from the neighbors across the street that had no worries as long as they knew that the construction was going to be minimal.
Thank you.
And by minimal, I mean it's just indoor construction. There's nothing that's going to be done to the exterior premises.
Nothing. What about the green space outside? And take your screen down, please, Tiffany.
Oh, sorry. Hold on 1 second. I had to figure out how to do that. So,
There would be no change to the green space on the front entrance.
No improvement at all.
There's no.
There'd be no change.
There's no construction
Some grass or
to
something.
be external.
I know. Yeah, I mean, we need to spruce it up a little bit here. So you're gonna renovate the building. What are you gonna do for the apartments that's on the inside here? What you gonna do for each apartment?
All of the apartments are currently rented. So obviously, there's no change to the existing tenants. Obviously, the tenants want to stay in their units. So there's no intention of obviously changing anything. This is simply dealing with 1 unit that's in the cellar.
Okay. Are you going to, how long have they had their appliances here?
Sorry, how long have they had their what?
Appliances, their refrigerator, their stove. How long they been in the apartment?
I don't know. I'd have to ask my client that question.
Okay. Thank you.
Brenda, I believe I know what you're getting at. From what I've been able to glean is that these are long-term residents that have lived there for an extended period of time. As I stated previously, Meredith and her team have reached out. All of the residents that are currently living there are aware that this BZA application has been submitted. They have not heard any negative responses. I have posted it. I have not heard any negative responses. It pretty much seems like everyone's just like, oh, okay, well, they're gonna add another unit, so be it.
Okay, this is what I'm getting to, Tiffany, because you're not talking what I want to hear here. For many years, I lived in an apartment, and I'm asking these questions for a reason, because I feel as though if you just said that these people been in this building for a long time, when was the last time their appliances have been upgraded? Because it sounds like to me, there's nothing on the outside being done. If the appliances is not being upgraded, well, this building bought just to say, I have a building and I'm going to keep it as it is instead of upgrading to what really needs to be done in this building.
I think that's beyond the scope of what they're trying to achieve and beyond the scope of what we need to look at. That's a separate issue.
How is that a separate issue?
If there are additional upgrades that are needed for the existing units.
Okay, did you all discuss that?
I'm sorry.
Was that discussed additional?
That was not discussed when I met with Meredith and toured the property.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. Any more questions? Evans?
I'd just like to move the resolution.
Evans, do you have anyone?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
I'd like
thank
to.
you.
I'd like to move the resolution.
Okay. Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Okay, it has been moved as second. We're ready to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Nay? It's one nay? Okay. Say the ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. Have a good evening and a happy Thanksgiving.
You too,
Thanks,
sweetheart.
Meredith.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Everybody.
much.
Thank you, Tiffany. Resolution 4B-20-1109, supporting DDOT notice of intent to modify the intersection at North Capitol and Longfellow Street Northeast. Commissioner Brooks.
Yes, so for the last 3 years, we've been working with DDOT to improve the intersection at Longfellow Street and North Capitol Streets, Northeast and Northwest. At this point, there are accidents at that intersection nearly daily. Not all accidents are reported to the police. So DDOT has a record of there being 52 accidents over the last 3 years, and they're all the same type of accident. They're all T-bone accidents where someone is coming off of Longfellow Street and trying to cross North Capitol Street, and cannot see that the northbound traffic on North Capitol Street does not have a red light. Most recently, one of the accidents ended up with a car leaving the roadway and ending up in the backyard stairwell of the homeowner at that corner while the neighbor was working in their yard. The accidents seem to escalate in seriousness over the years, and there have been accidents nearly daily during the quarantine when in fact traffic has been reduced. So the decision is that it has absolutely nothing to do with the rush hour traffic or the volume of cars, and everything to do with the sightline and visibility on that street. To that end, DDOT has finally prepared a notice of intent to modify that intersection to make it safer. And they're going to make some quick changes, which would install flexi posts along the center line of North Capitol Street. They'll convert Longfellow Street northeast to be one-way westbound east of North Capitol Street, which means they won't need to fully cross North Capitol because you won't be able to go straight on that portion of Longfellow Street any longer. They're going to push back the parking spaces by 25 feet from the crosswalk on Longfellow Street Northwest to improve visibility. And I'm asking that everyone support this resolution wholeheartedly because there's a sense of urgency to address the issue before someone is killed in that intersection. Are there any questions? I don't see any questions
No
in the chat.
questions?
So
No
if the commission,
question.
no.
Nothing in the
So if
chat?
there are no questions, then I'm,
No questions in the chat, Madam Chair.
yep. So if that's the case, I move to support the notice of intent from the Department of Transportation to modify this intersection to improve the traffic safety.
A second.
It's been moved in second. We ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ayes have it. Thank you.
Did everybody vote? I didn't hear everybody.
Ayes have it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Number 10, presentation, HGA Architect and Engineers and Resolution 4B-20-007, supporting requests for special exception to lot occupancy and parking requirements to allow construction of new Lamont Ridge DC Public Library at 5401 South Dakota Avenue Northeast. The BZA number is 20392. And this was added earlier on the agenda, and this is Commissioner Huff.
Hello, thank you so much for allowing this to get on the calendar for tonight. Lamont Riggs Library currently sits in 5A, and it was built in 1983. The library design and community outreach began in fall of 2017. And the 5A Commission has fully supported the lot occupancy and the parking requirements. I do have tonight here speaking Ruben Hamid, who will do the presentation. We've asked for 10 minutes presentation and 5 minutes for questions and answers. So with that being said, I will now ask that Mr. Ruben Hamid be joining the conversation to talk about the new library.
Yep. Sorry, Commissioner. They should all be able to speak momentarily.
Thank you.
Good evening. As Ruben joins in, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Jaspreet Pawa with DC Public Library. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So I represent the library. I lead the design and construction of our neighborhood projects. I'm here with the design build team. HGA Architects is our design team, and Consigli Construction is our build team. We have representatives from both. We want to present this project to you. As Commissioner Huff said, the project currently lies in 5A, and it's been presented to the community over the course of the inception of design. We've had 5 community meetings. And we are here to specifically talk about a BZA case, as the commissioner said. The team will kind of walk through the design. Can we have the next slide, please? I will go over the project timeline just to kind of give you a sense of how long the project's been going on. The design team will kind of dive into the design of the project, go through the floor plans and the specifics of the zoning, lot occupancy and parking. We'll obviously be here on standby for questions. I am joined from the library by my colleagues. I have a community representative, Martha Secocchio, available, as well as the library branch manager, Robin Imperial, here with me. From Consigli Construction, we have Eric TV, who will be representing the construction team and be on standby to answer any questions you have. Next slide, please. The team will walk through the specifics of the BZA request, effectively the lot occupancy. We are exceeding the lot occupancy by 2%, and we are reducing the number of parking spaces by 2. And the team will kind of get into the specifics of it as we roll through the presentation. Next slide, please. This is sort of like the overall timeline on the project. As we shared, the project started early in 2017. We've had several community meetings, starting with the program of the library and showing iteratively how the design has evolved. The library was closed earlier this year in May and handed over to Consigli Construction after all the move out of the staff and the books, etc. happened. Consigli Construction has completed the hazmat abandonment, and the utilities have been disconnected as of 2 weeks ago. We are very, very close to receiving our raise permit. As soon as we have the raise permit on hand, the building will come down and the construction will begin. At this point, we should be able to stay on track with turning over the project. And with that, can we move to the next slide? I'm going to hand it over to Peter Cook, who is our lead design architect, to kind of give you an overview of the design. Peter, take it.
Good evening, everybody. Let me make sure everybody can hear me.
We can, sir.
Thumbs up. Excellent. Great. Thank you. Good evening again, and thank you very much for your time tonight. The next several slides will be simply a recap of the approved design as we have it right now. I think really the meat of what we're trying to get at today will be handled by my colleague Ruben Hamid, who will take us through some of the zoning issues. So I'm going to go relatively quickly in the interest of time and respect for everybody's time here tonight over the next few slides, just to give you an overview of the design itself. So what you're seeing here on the screen right here, just to orient you, at the bottom of the screen is South Dakota Avenue. To the left is Kennedy Street, and to the right is Jefferson Street. Of course, right in the middle is the existing site of the library. If you see it ghosted underneath, you can see the footprint of the existing building, but superimposed on top of that in that blue parallelogram is the proposed footprint of the new building, which is going to be a two-story building at about 23,500 square feet plus or minus. What you're seeing around it, however, really illustrates that it's a rather tight site. We've got setbacks to adhere to at the rear, at the side. We have a heritage tree at the bottom right of your screen, which is a tree that we absolutely have to maintain. And then, of course, we also have some of the parking requirements here, and that's kind of generally indicated in the dark gray off to the left of that. We'll get into that specifically a little bit later on. Let's go to the next slide here. What we've tried to do as architects and as designers to begin to think about how do we rationalize, how do we place the building on the site? So we try to take cues from the neighborhood, try to understand what is the rhythm and the texture and the pattern of the neighborhood. And this is what you can begin to see a diagram where we looked at the layout of the homes relative to the curb line and started to figure out whether that gives us a sense about where the building really wants to sit on the site. We also started looking at the architecture of the building itself, looking at some of the newer architecture at the top, looking at some of the existing architecture at the bottom, and how there's a very planar quality to the rhythm of the modern buildings at the top, but there's also kind of a sawtooth pattern to the way the roofs of the existing residences meet the sky. Again, is there something we can learn from that? So we began also thinking about, at the bottom of your screen, this is a view looking out from the existing library to the green space directly across South Dakota Avenue. And there's a real importance about creating memories of the space. So we've tried to add all of this stuff up, the building concept about the being an extension of the homes, in a sense also a reflection of the neighborhood architecture and also the memories of this place. And so all of these things add up architecturally, so to speak, to the designs we have it today, which is the next slide here. And so what you're seeing here is an illustration of the building as we've designed it, a two-story structure. And again, this is from looking at it with South Dakota in the foreground, Kennedy Street off to the left, and Jefferson off to the right. And what Ruben will be talking about a little bit is the parking that's off to the left in this image, and then a patio in the foreground off to the right. The next image shows the exact same image, but just rendered at night. You can begin to see how the building really begins to open up and begin to transform itself and begin to almost have a lantern-like quality due to some of the materials we've selected. I'm going through this very quickly. I'm happy to kind of go through this in more detail, but if you'd like. This is a quick landscape plan, and this gets into more, illustrates a little bit better the intent behind the landscape around it, whether there are bow retention spaces, there are parking spaces off to the left, there's a patio, again, off to the bottom right here, entry furniture and so on. Let's go to the next one. And just very quickly about the floor plans. I mentioned this is a 23,500 square foot building, plus or minus, on 2 floors, at grade and a second floor, so there's no below grade space. The main entrance is, of course, where it says main entrance. You go through the vestibule and into a large open space called the marketplace. There's an elevator directly in front of you with an information desk, a staircase leading up off to the left, and off to the right is a large meeting room, a large flexible space that can accommodate at least 100 when it is not divided as shown in this drawing. In the upper right, you can begin to see the children's discovery zone. And then in the upper left is, generally speaking, that area is devoted to staff and building support spaces. Now, if we go up to the second floor, you take that elevator up, you take the stairs up, and you land right in the reading area. And again, a large open space that parallels South Dakota Avenue, where you have a reading space, productivity center, and anything, anytime kind of flexible space, as well as what we're calling the living room. On the quieter side, away from South Dakota Avenue, is an adult services area where the teen services also are located. That also feeds out onto an exterior balcony, which looks out over Jefferson Street. And again, like on the ground floor in the upper left, are some of the staff workrooms and lounges and some of the private spaces that support the building. So that's the quick overview of the building and the designs we have it right now. But we want to really get into some of the zoning issues with you tonight. So I'll hand it off to my colleague, Ruben Hamid, right now. Ruben?
Hi. So I'm going to quickly go over the zoning and lot occupancy and parking, which we're requesting a special exception for, and hopefully ANC will support it. Currently, the library is in R2 zone, and an R2 zone is a residential zone. And typically with the residential zone, the lot occupancy requirements is 40% of the lot. And the height of the building is no more than 40 feet. So our current building falls under that 40-foot height, but it's takes up more of the lot than what is required for zoning. That's the existing building. So this is a layout of the existing building. The ground floor of it is a little over 10,000 square feet. Currently it takes 47% of the total lot. So the existing building is already non-conforming to the requirements for the zone. In this, you can also see the existing parking area. I have highlighted in red the building property line, and you can see the various kind of setbacks which the existing building kind of fits within. On the new proposed structure, we're taking up a little more of the lot in order to kind of fit the program. We're taking up about 49.5% of the lot. So the ground floor is a little over 1,100 square feet. And kind of what Peter talked about with all of our various kind of like setbacks, side yards, rear yards, and the property line. This is kind of how the building sits on the site. And of course, we have the off-street parking area, which I'll talk a little bit about next. So kind of a quick summary of the lot occupancy. The zone lot occupancy is 40%. The existing lot occupancy that the existing library is taking is 47%, which is already a 7% deviation from the zone requirements. What we're asking for, what we're proposing is 49.5%, which is 2.5% increase from the existing lot occupancy. Now for the parking. This is the existing building and the existing building parking lot. As you can see, on the existing lot, there's 11 parking spaces, legal parking spaces. There are 2 non-compliant parking spaces that are parallel to the Kennedy Street side of the parking lot. These parking spaces are not considered compliant because there's this building restriction line, this dotted line which per zoning doesn't allow to have any cars parked in that. So these two spots, which people kind of utilize, one is non-compliant, and two, it doesn't even show up on the existing DC surveyor's survey of the site. As I discussed, the parking, we have 11 spaces. We have a handicap space, which is currently non-compliant space for handicap van accessible parking. Space number 11 is also a limited access space because of the existing dumpster location. You can squeeze a small compact car in there, but typically it's not really that accessible space. Additionally, there's two entry drives. We have a non-compliant entry drive, which is closer to the corner of South Dakota and Kennedy Street. And then we have a compliant entry drive, which is a little further up Kennedy Street. And I'm going to talk about the new proposed parking. So what we're proposing is 9 spaces. And these are 9 legal parking spaces, kind of the most amount of parking that we can kind of fit in the existing parking lot area and bring the parking lot into compliance. We have spot number 1, which is the handicap and accessible spot. And we have 8 other parking spaces, regular parking spaces. We're leaving the end parking space available to roll out dumpsters and recycle bins, which we have in a recycle and dumpster enclosure. Like I said before, with those 2 parallel parking spaces, they're not allowed because they're in the building restriction area. But that will also allow better backing in and out of the spaces. And the entry drive, we have to remove the non-compliant entry drive closest to South Dakota and Kennedy Street, and we're widening the entry further up Kennedy Street to allow for a 2-way in and out traffic. Some of the other parking lot enhancements that we're doing, we're adding a line of shrubs and bushes on the Kennedy Street side to help block visually the parking. And we're also doing some enhancements to the fence line along the rear of the property adjacent to the closest residence to block view of the parking lot. So this is kind of the new parking layout. So parking requirements for the zone is 11 spaces. The existing library has 11 spaces, but as I said before, some of those existing spaces aren't compliant. Our proposed parking is 9 spaces. So we have 2 parking space kind of deviation from what the zoning requirements are. So in summary, we're looking for ANC support. 5A has unanimously supported us for the reduced parking and the lot occupancy. And I'm hoping that this ANC can also give us your support for our BZA case, which is coming up January 13th.
Okay. Thank you all so much for that. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
This is Commissioner Johnson. Can you go back a couple of slides real quick? Okay, yes. So it's zone parking for 11 spaces, but now you're doing 9 spaces. How is that going to affect those individuals with disabilities and those individuals who are dropped off at that site? I'm still not quite clear as to why we're eliminating spaces instead of trying to find more spaces.
Well, with the site is very kind of constrained to start off with. Even the existing parking lot is very kind of constrained. And this handicap spot, which is there, isn't van accessible. It doesn't have like the proper width to it to get a van in and out of it and have like the wheelchair lift on the side of the van. So that's one reason why we're losing out on one space, is so we can kind of properly space that van accessible parking space. Now, also, like I mentioned on the spot number 11, is really not a real usable parking space just because of the dumpster. And in our new design, we have this dumpster enclosure, but we're kind of losing out on some of that space in order to kind of get the dumpsters in and out from that enclosure into a dump truck. So that's kind of two reasons why we're losing out on spaces, is to kind of make it 188 accessible, and also just to kind of like meet the other kind of like zoning requirements for a parking lot.
Well, have you reached out to DPW to see if the dumpster can perhaps be moved?
Moved where?
To
Because
the other side. To the street on the what is that? Is that Jefferson Road? To the south side.
yeah, well, to kind of speak about some of the other kind of like site constraints that we do have. I don't know how familiar you are with the site, but the rear end of the site is like a 7-foot kind of retaining wall holding back this alley. So the retaining wall kind of starts off a little lower, 4 feet, but it goes up to like 7 feet as it kind of goes across the back end of the site from Kennedy to Jefferson. So on the Jefferson and Public Alley side, that's kind of like a high point for the site. So moving the dumpster to that side will probably not be that easy to kind of like accomplish. Not to mention there'll be additional curb cut requirements, which VDOT typically frowns on, and it will be further away from the kind of back of house building area where the trash will kind of and recycle kind of come in and out of the building, where all the rest of the kind of building mechanical services are.
Peter Cook.
DDOT doesn't have a choice. If it can be ADA compliant, that's federal law. So they really don't have a choice.
Maybe
Go
I'm
ahead,
missing.
Allison.
Maybe I'm missing your question because I thought it was about the dumpsters.
Well, that's my concern, is that if we're losing spaces because of dumpsters and
Yeah, let me
there
jump in and
has to
just
be
add
another
something.
way.
Let me just jump in and add 2 things to the conversation, Tiffany. One is, this is on Jefferson Street, so there's still street parking on that side street. In addition to that, there's a K Fritz property across the street that will eventually have parking as well.
Eventually, but
well, I say eventually because there's construction right now. So the building is not there currently. So just like the library will be under construction, the property across the street is under construction as well. So I'm just adding that for your consideration.
no, I'm trying to see how this all works out, because as people know, I'm also an employee of the Department on Disability Services, and our people use this library often. And that's one of the concerns that our providers have had, is that they cannot park their vehicles at this site to drop off and pick up their constituents. So I'm just trying to figure out how this is logistically all going to work once it's all fully done.
Well,
so that they have a place to park and let off their employees, or if there's a van or something that needs to stay there because people have decided that they want to stay at the library.
So there's only 1 handicap space before, and there will still be 1 handicap space after.
Correct, and that handicap space would be van accessible handicap space.
Right, it
So-
actually would be a better space than what exists currently.
Exactly.
The one handicap, the one disabled space, is that compliant with ADA and UFAS guidelines?
Yes, it is. 100% for van to pull up into it, have enough space alongside of it for it to lower its ramp and get wheelchair access to the side of the van.
Okay.
Any more questions for the commissioners?
Yeah, this is very rare, just one. Uh, is- Please clarify for me whether or not the street parking will get metered. You know, you guys aren't going to meter the streets out.
VDOT hasn't indicated anything to us about metering the streets.
Thank you.
Only of all three.
And currently, just so you know, because they're only, I frequent this library regularly with my children. And in addition to that, South Manor Neighborhood Association has been intricately involved in the development of the library project. So I'm well versed on this topic. We were using the street parking well before this as well.
And I asked a question, Allison, Commissioner Brooks, chiefly because I know what they did when they put the Children's Museum in, and you know, those surrounding streets next to Bacchus, and you know, they meted the streets on us when they didn't warn us about that. But
Right.
good to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on chat?
Yes. Robert Oliver. Hold on one second, and you can speak. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Just wanted to mention that there are discussions in place to possibly use some of the parking spaces that will be available in Phase B of the build out by the K-Fritz Foundation. When K-Fritz builds this new building across the street, which is called a Family Entertainment Zone or FEZ, it'll have over 700 underground parking spaces. Based upon work that was done by the Lamont Riggs Citizens Association, they had gotten into negotiations with K-Fritz to see if there was some way to get discounted parking for library patrons, anticipating that with the new building and with an increase in patron usage, the existing parking lot, even with the 11 spaces, would not be enough. Currently, we have all parties at the table, including DCPL, and we're going to try to move forward and hammer out a deal. We've not had our first meeting yet, but this is something that is ongoing. And that's basically it from me, unless there's other questions.
Anyone else on chat?
Nope. Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
All right, thank you all. Thank you, Commissioner Huff, for the presentation. Are we ready to vote? Commissioner Huff?
Yes, I move to support the resolution for special exception for lot occupancy and parking requirements.
A second.
Wait, one second. That's the wrong version of the resolution. You put that up?
I'm sorry. No. I don't think I have another version. Let me see.
I put it on the correct header and.
Oh, okay. I do have it.
That was on.
I apologize. Aaron, you might need to share it. It's giving me an error message when I try to open it.
Okay.
While we're waiting on that, I want to thank everyone because it's 10:08 that's still with us. Hope everyone have a wonderful and a very safe Thanksgiving and we don't meet in the month of December. And I wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I also want to congratulate all of the commissioners that won their seat back, and welcome the new ones to the commissioners in January.
Indeed, I second that.
All right.
Thank you all for working with, for allowing me to work with you for these last 2 years. You've been wonderful. Thank you all.
And thank you, Perry, for your 2 years that you've been with us. You've done a marvelous job. So we're going to put that aside and get back to the resolution here. Since this resolution was just came forth today, Aaron, would you mind reading it quickly, please?
The entire resolution?
No, just highlight it.
Amen.
Resolution supporting request for special exception to lot occupancy and parking requirements to allow construction of new Lamont Briggs DC Library.
Okay, keep going.
Just requested a special exception.
No, just scroll down. Just scroll down. Okay, just do future resolve and future resolve, and we finish.
Resolved that Advisory Neighborhood Commission 4B supports the applicant's request for a special exception from the minimum parking requirements for local government use and a special exception from the lot occupancy permissions for public library in the R2 zone, which will allow the construction of the new Lamont Briggs DC Library at 5401 South Dakota Avenue North.
Okay, let's vote. Thank you, Aaron. It's been moved and second. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay? Abstain? Okay, ayes have it. Thank you. It passed.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay, it's 10:11. Have a motion to adjourn.
We have community comments still.
Community comments?
If anybody would like to speak from the community, you can raise your hand just to speak for a moment.
We have one in the chat that I could read.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My name is Devonda Walker, and I am the founder of the Interfaith Primary School in North America. We are opening one of our first of our 7 locations nationwide in 4B. I would like to provide the website to everyone on today's call, become familiar with our tuition-free private school, as we hope to submit a proposal to the commission and community support. For more information, visit ipsofna.org. And I'll copy and paste that into the broadcast chat for everybody to see.
Thank you.
Oh, Brenda, we were going to take a moment to thank you for your last 2 years as chair. Thanks, Scott, for his time on the commission, as well as Perry, and you stole our thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you can go ahead. We got 60 seconds.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the direction that Scott provided for the majority of us who were new 2 years ago. Your support was greatly appreciated. Both you and Scott were the only 2 returning members to the commission. And so your history and perspective was invaluable in our beginning months. And Perry, we wish you the best of luck. I'm sure we're going to see you at future meetings as a constituent and look forward to your continued involvement in Commission 4B. Did I get it in all under 60 seconds?
Yes, you did. And I thank you all. But guess what? I'm coming back for the next 2 terms, and I'm giving you all pure hell.
No comment.
That's right. Don't make me syndrome you.
Okay.
Oh, God.
All right. So okay, everybody have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Stay safe. Please, please wear your mask. Please, okay? Wear your mask. And And I hope Santa Claus be good to all of you all. I know you said, Brenda said Santa Claus. Yes, I believe in Santa Claus. I really do. Anybody give me a gift for Santa Claus. But anyway, everybody be safe. Have a good Thanksgiving. If you're traveling, please be safe. Yes, Gordon, I see your hand.
With that, I'll move to adjourn.
Yes.
A second.
I'm just waving goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you all.
All right, happy holiday.
Happy holidays.